Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Shinobi Alliance read Naruto and RWBY. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by ROXAS2913 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Uncount location. So, does anyone think this is some elaborate prank by some god or goddess? Because I do. A woman's voice rang out, filling the place with a melodic sound. No Kushi-chan, if anything this is our only knowledge on why Naruto-kun isn't here with us. Another voice, but this time male, said. Knowing the dope, he probably got reincarnated as a new person to help stop hatred like he did in our world. Another male's voice said, but this one was filled with arrogance. And how would the oh-so-great Sasuke-chan know this? Kushina or Kushi-chan by her husband Minato, said as she looked at the Ravenet suspiciously. It says here on this white case-like thing Naruto the Scythe Master told to come here by a random voice in our head. Put two and two together, or are you where the dope got his intelligence from? The now-named Sasuke said smugly, as if he was waiting for a retort. Shut up. And Minato, let go of me so I can teach this brat a lesson. Kushina shouted as she was being held in an arm lock by her husband to prevent her from murdering the smug Uchiha. Now, no fighting here or else I'll permanently remove you and you'll never know what happens to Naruto. A stern but soft voice rang out. Who the hell are you to keep me away from my Sachi-san? Both Kushina and Minato demanded as they looked at the newest arrival. She was fairly tall, standing at 5'5" with long white hair that went down to mid-thighs. Her eyes were a stunning shade of purple and her skin was a soft cream color. She was wearing an ornate kimono with flower designs all over it that kept close to her body, revealing that she had C-cup breasts. To answer your question, I am Izanami and my brother Izanagi just made a fool out of himself with the people from the original RWBY universe. She said as she bowed slightly before deadpanning. Ah, you're one of the two creation gods, along with Izanagi. You two are said to have created our nations that we used to live on, Kushina said with slight amounts of awe in her voice. Thank you for saying that so I don't have to explain everything, but you all will be watching this. Izanami said as she held up the container that read Naruto the Scythe Master on it. Watching, what the hell is that? And what does it have to do with us and Naruto-kun? Minato said with a frown as he looked at Izanami. Well, my brother thought it was a good idea to create an alternate reality, with the RWBY universe being the base universe for it, with Naruto having been reincarnated into it. He is going to have a family this time around, in fact, he will even have a twin sister. So if you want to know what happened to Naruto, start watching this. Izanami said with a soft smile. And for the first question, watching is the act of viewing something on a television screen, or a TV for short, and you will be watching this on the 86-inch plasma screen TV over there. She said pointing to the far wall for everyone to look at, only to see that she was correct and that there were recliner chairs and sofas for everyone to sit on. And as for your other question. Well, we weren't able to see him here, but we'll be able to see him grow up with a happy family this time around, with no burden of being a Jinchuriki. Kushina said with a remorseful smile as she put the disc into the DVD player and started up the TV, with all of them wondering how Kushina knew how to work technology they haven't seen before. So, who do you think the dope's going to piss off first with his attitude? Sasuke asked with a smirk. Shut up. The video's about to begin and I don't want to miss the opening. Minato surprisingly said. When everyone looked at him he simply said, I only saw him as a baby and as a 16-year-old and both times were for a short amount of time. Any time I can see my son grow up, even if he isn't related to me by blood anymore, is precious. So do you think he'll have a good home and nice family? Or will he suffer like he did in his first life? Kushina asked in an overly worried tone. Don't worry, the dope will be fine. Knowing him he'll make friends with the stupidest of people though. Sasuke replied without an ounce of concern on his face. Yeah, Kushi-chan, he'll be perfectly fine. Minato said with a soft smile. And if a god was messing with I take offense to that. The disc played, as if to crush his reassurances. Hell no. Well there you have it, God hates you, why does everyone hate me so much? Izanagi, shut the hell up. Sasuke said with his cocky smirk on again. That was the loud shout from one Naruto as he raised his hands up to deny a certain Rose her desires. Naruto Rose was a young 15-year-old boy with bright blonde hair with red tips, with the golden parts of his hair glowing like the sun, with the red tips making his hair seem like it was always on fire. His eyes were a striking silver color, inherited through his mother, and he was rather pale-skinned once more he blamed his mother for that one, as he did with the weird red tips in his hair. Wow, I didn't think Naruto could become so different. And he looks kind of weird with the new hairdo. Commented Sakura as she walked towards Sasuke. Don't you talk bad about my Sachi Databane. Kushina said angrily as she glared at Sakura. When he had agreed with Old Man Sage to be reincarnated into another dimension, he hadn't thought that he would have moon pale skin or strange hair with red tips. Ah, so that's why Naruto isn't with us, Hagoromo reincarnated him into another dimension, a new voice said as the person walked into the room. He wore a red shirt with black pants and had a tan gourd strapped across his back. The male had short red hair and green pupil-less eyes that had black eyeliner around them. Oh, hey Gaara. And Kushina, even he agrees with me on his hair being weird. Sakura stated as she looked back at the screen. He was about the same height as he had been when he had been near the end of the war, so about 5 feet 7 inches. He wore a black spandex. Oh god, he's been corrupted by Guy and Lee. Shut up and allow us to finish the video. That clung tightly to his skin, showing off the amazing muscle tone that he had attained in this life, much like his last life. He was lean-muscled, and his shirt lacked any sleeves at all, showing off his toned arms, though his right arm had 4 scars on the bicep that looked like claw marks. What did the dope do this time? Get in a fight with a bear and lose? Sasuke, shut the hell up now or I swear to Kami you'll wish you were dead. The symbol of his shirt had an orange swirl symbol, but the top of the swirl seemed to look like it was on fire. He wore bright orange skinny jeans that he tucked into black combat boots, and on each side were his flaming Uzumaki symbol. Around his waist was a silver-studded black belt, and attached to the back of the belt was a metal weapon. Hey, he upgraded my clan symbol. Hell yeah, go Sachi. Kushina shouted with pride clearly in her voice. My problem is that the dope is still attracted to color orange, Sasuke commented, but I wonder, what is the weapon on his back, and who is this Rose character? Around his neck he had a loose red scarf that covered his neck from being seen. Having been taught how to use a high-caliber sniper scythe by his uncle, how the hell can we hear the quotation marks around his uncle, and who is this uncle? My question is, what is a high-caliber sniper scythe? He had decided that he would follow in not only in his uncle's footsteps, but also take the same weapon as his annoying sister. Ouch, we don't even know who she is, and she's already getting dissed. He had modified his weapon a little though from the basic design, just like his sister had. His weapon was orange again with the orange addiction, for one, while his sister had gone with red. They had the same compact form, he had zero mechanical skill, at least the dope admits it. Sasuke, what did I say about speaking badly about my Sachi? Both of you shut up so the rest of us can listen. So his sister had actually created the weapon, he just used it and maintained it. Really, the only difference between their weapons was that instead of the lightweight material that his sister used, Naruto used a heavier metal in his weapon because of his superior physical strength when compared to her. The Leasea girl the same age as Naruto begged as she grabbed onto the back of his scarf, and as he was walking away she was dragged with him. And now the girl is about to be introduced, but she seems really childish, Sakura comments with a slight frown. Ruby Rose, his fraternal twin sister, one of him was bad enough, but now two. I fear for the sanity of the others, who was not 5 inches shorter than him at 5'2" in the height area. Likewise, she was also 5 minutes older than him, and she wasn't ashamed to throw that little fact in his face. Even though he was more physically mature and mentally mature, she liked to flaunt her 5-minute age difference in his face. She had red-tinted black hair with her tips being closer to red, the same red as his own hair, but her hair was slightly uneven, with the right side being a little longer than the bangs. Her hair was shorter length all around though. They had both gotten red tips from their shared mother, and likewise they had gotten the same silver eyes and pale skin, which Naruto disliked on himself, from their mother. She was rather well endowed for her age, but not that large, just larger than the average 15-year-old. I know incest isn't frowned upon in our society, but is it there? Because that last part seemed a little on the perverted side. Sakura commented while everyone else began nodding. Jiraiya, if you corrupted my Sachi, I will castrate you with a dull, rusty knife. Kushina said with pure malice in her voice. You called, oh. Should I leave then? The voice of an older man said as he walked in, only to nervously ask when he saw Kushina's face. No, you will stay right here so that we all can make sure my Sachi isn't a pervert, you old toad. Kushina growled at the white-haired sage. Let's get back to the video, and Kushina, don't castrate Jiraiya. Minato said nervously as he pressed the play button for the video. He missed his peach skin and blue eyes, though silver wasn't that much different than blue in how bright it was. She wore a black blouse with red trimmings on it, and the blouse was connected to black shirt that was trimmed with red frills as well. She had a black corset with red strings on the front of it around her stomach, and under that was a black belt with a silver rose that seemed to be on fire. Her belt had a red holster for her ammo, and on the back of her weapon was a red version of the weapon, though it was visibly lighter than the one that he carried with him. Around her shoulders and nearly touching the ground was a red hooded cloak, but she didn't have the hood up. Underneath her skirt she wore black stockings, though they were mostly see-through, and black combat boots with red trimmings on them. I'm beginning to see a pattern with the color schemes for the people who have already been introduced in the story. Minato said as he wondered not only why her clothes' color scheme, but also why they were similar to Naruto's clothes. No. Naruto said as he continued to walk away. The night in such a cold fashion. You sure you didn't give some lessons to Naruto on how to be antisocial? Gaara asked with a worried look on his face. Don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that. Sakura replied with a look of pure annoyance on her face. RWBY vanished in a burst of petals and appeared on his back, making use of her semblance, the ability to increase her speed to near instantaneous levels, to grab onto him. She latched onto him, with her arms around his neck and her legs wrapped around his stomach. Semblance, is that like a Kekkei Genkai? And do these people even have chakra or some other unknown energy? Minato asked in pure amazement. Or does everyone have a semblance and for each person it's different, or does everyone have the same semblance? Kushina asked in wonder. Please putty please with sugar on top. RWBY begged him in her cute voice. And now we know why he has to be harsh like he is. RWBY is not just childish, but extremely childish. Sakura commented with a soft smile on her face. Please stop asking, Naruto mockingly said back to her, and she pouted at him and rubbed her puffed up cheeks into his slightly scarred cheeks. On each of his cheeks were jagged scars, 3 per cheek, and though they looked like how his birthmarks appeared when he first started using Kurama's chakra, this time they were actually scars on his face that simply looked like birthmarks. He missed Kurama and truly wished the fox could have come with him to the new world, but he was here to spread the message of Ninshu to a new world that used an internal energy known as aura. Well, there's your answer on what type of energy they use, but what are the properties of this new energy? Jiraiya asked as he watched the screen closely. Thankfully his aura reserves were just as high as his chakra reserves had been. And that was ungodly, damn it quite doing that. Izanagi, just go pick on the people from the RWBY universe to make yourself feel better, amount of chakra he had. Gaara commented with widened eyes. That was the reason why his hair was always glowing, because his aura filled up his hair to the point that it glowed. I need more ammo for Crescent Rose THOUGH. I used it all against those beelds a few weeks ago and haven't been able to go to the city for more. I need a Rei to Veil, but Yang is out. You have to need ammo too. RWBY complained as she beat her fists into the top of his head softly. It didn't even hurt, then again, it wasn't supposed to hurt. What is a Beowulf? Is it a monster, a demon, or just a new species of wolves? Sasuke asked with a quizzical look on his face. On the side note, while RWBY relied on Crescent Rose for combat, Naruto was mostly a hand-to-hand fighter by nature. He did use his weapon, but not enough that he would need more ammo every few weeks. Even then, he stocked up on 50mm bullets for his own Uzumaki Rose. Hey, if RWBY could name hers after the moon and their last name, then he could name his after a whirlpool and a rose. Naruto's own name had come from a maelstrom that their mother, Summer, had seen when she had taken a trip to Vacuo, which had a lot of people with similar names of this world's Japanese style of naming. While RWBY had been named after a shade of the color red, which happened to go well with the last name of Rose. I don't need ammo, you know that I don't need ammo. I know that you know, and you know that I won't let you use my ammo. Naruto told her as she placed her hands over his eyes so that he couldn't see. An orange hand wrapped around RWBY's torso before she was lifted from his body. The orange hand looked like it was a flame with strange energy flames, and it was coming out of his back. His own semblance was the ability to manifest his aura out of his body in the form of arms. There was a limit to this, and it took up a lot of concentration to use, and the limit to arms that he could manifest at any given time was 4 arms. He called it Asura's blessing. It seemed extremely overpowered at first, but now with the restrictions on it, it's at least fair. Gaara commented, while noting the fact that Naruto gave it the same name as Ashura Tsuki, the person who was reincarnated into Naruto. And even the Dobe's aura is orange, but now we know the each semblance is different. Sasuke said as he face-palmed due to annoyance. Not fair. RWBY said as she crossed her arms in front of her, before the arm holding her vanished and she fell back down to her feet. You owe me, I need to pick up some dust anyway. I'm running low now. Naruto said as he pulled out a pipe from the case on the side of his belt. His pipe, normally used for a more unhealthy habit, was a medium that he used to turn dust into a weapon. Okay, 2 questions. What is dust and why use a pipe as a weapon for the dust? Jiraiya asked as he looked at the pipe on the screen. At least he doesn't smoke tobacco and knows smoking tobacco is bad for one's health. Sakura said as she too looked at the pipe. His pipe was a small black pipe, and on the side of the pipe, it showed 2 glowing lines. The first line was a light blue line that was halfway filled, while the second was at about 10% filled, and it was red. Naruto placed the pipe to his mouth before he sucked in for a second. Compressed air was released from the end of the pipe while Naruto took dust into his lungs. So now we see why the Dobe has the pipe and what this dust can do. Sasuke commented with his eyes narrowed. Naruto breathed out towards a tree while mixing his aura with the mist, and the side of the tree frosted over. What? Dust allows him to use Hymen. Sakura yelled in pure disbelief at what she was seeing. And probably more elements for the corresponding colors, so that means the red dust must be fire-related. Minato said as he too stared at the screen in disbelief. His pipe let him suck in ice and fire dust before allowing him to breath out mist that frosted things over or just spew out fire from his mouth. His semblance was hard to use during a battle because of the massive amounts of concentration it took to keep up for extended periods of time, and it was extremely aura-draining to use. Seriously, who expected a pipe to be a weapon? He is correct on that one. Shinobi are supposed to be able to trick an opponent into a sense of security and then strike. Also, the rule of weapons is anything can become a weapon in the right person's hands. Jiraiya stated as he nodded in approval at Naruto's choice in weaponry. But my Sachi is still in the habit of smoking. Kushina stated dejectedly, looking at the floor in slight disappointment. If Yang was here, Ruby started as she looked at his pipe. Okay, who the hell is this Yang? She's been mentioned at least twice now and we don't know who she is. Is she the older sister to both of them or is she the aunt? Minato exclaimed in frustration as he grabbed the sides of his head. It's just like before Ruby was introduced, we knew some things about her, but not who she was, Kushina said as she shook her head at her husband's behavior. I'm not smoking anything hazardous to my health. Naruto reminded Ruby as she walked towards him. She was about to take the pipe from him so that she could breathe out some fire before he held it above his head so that she couldn't smoke his dust. Not only was he limited in the fire part, but Ruby could hurt herself. It was dangerous to suck in dust like he did, well, if you don't know how to properly do it that is. Wait, didn't Naruto just say that he wasn't smoking anything hazardous to his health? Because he just contradicted himself if he did. Sakura said with concern written all over her face. So you were going to take me to dust after dawn? Ruby asked with a smile on her face. You owe me one, no you owe me two. Naruto told Ruby with a grin on his face. I'm really scared for Ruby now, that's the same grin Kushina gets when she's about to prank someone. Minato said while shivering at the memories of some of her pranks. 1.5, I owe you 1.5 plates of cookies. Ruby bargained with Naruto, who rolled his eyes at her. Naruto and Ruby walked around the small house that they lived in and they heard the sound of a dog barking loudly. Cookies? Cookies. All the just for cookies. Sakura shouted, not believing what she was seeing. For you to understand that deal, you must first know that Ruby has an extreme addiction to chocolate chip cookies, rivaling Naruto's addiction to ramen. Izanami stated as she entered the room holding a clipboard to her chest, making her look like a secretary. Oh, and with 1.5 plates being given up freely, that's a pretty big bargain if what you said is to be gone by. Sakura said with understanding in her eyes before asking what brings you here. I thought I would just check on all of you, that in Izanagi is getting really annoying, so I want to get away for a little bit. Izanami stated as she conjured up a recliner and relaxed in it while pulling a bag of popcorn from who knows where. Oh, that makes sense, let's continue watching now. Minato said as he once again pressed the play button before grabbing some popcorn for himself. Zwei, be a good guard dog. We are going out. Naruto called out as he and Ruby stopped in front of a small object covered in a black tarp. Naruto grabbed the tarp and ripped it away from what it was before he showed a small motorcycle. His motorcycle was Yang's old one before she got a new one which she had named Bumblebee, this one was called Stinger though. It was a slick black crotch rocket that had orange flames near the back of it, his own touch. The front of the bike was more pointed, hence the name Stinger. Oh Kami, thank you for using a different person. He even made his ride orange. Sasuke deadpanned as he looked at the motorcycle. Hey, orange is a combination of yellow, which represents me, and red, which represents Kushina, and since he's our Sachi he represents orange. Minato explains to Sasuke. Oh, that actually explains a lot. Thank you for wasting 10 seconds of my life on that. Sasuke replied sarcastically. Naruto took a key out of his pocket before he got on top of his bike and Ruby jumped on the back of it and wrapped her arms around his waist when he turned the key. Stinger hummed to life silently before Naruto kicked up the kickstand and quickly revved up the engine. Naruto grabbed the helmets that were on the side of his bike. One of them was a simple red helmet, the other was a red helmet with a screen in the front of the face to protect the driver from the wind so that they could see. They placed the helmets on their heads and Naruto closed the full-faced helmet. At least he remembers to wear the proper safety gear to protect himself from collisions and accidents. Kushina said with a small amount of pride in her voice at her son's remembrance of safety. Which is surprising since Naruto is the type of person to kick safety out the window and dive right into danger head first. Sakura stated as she looked at the screen with slightly widened eyes. But that Ruby squeaked when Naruto floored the pedal and they were off in a rush. And with that I take my earlier statement back and completely agree with Sakura. Kushina said with heavy amounts of disappointment in her voice. They should be able to get to the boat that would take them to Vale before it got dark, and then they should be able to actually get to Dust after dawn sometime before midnight. Who knows, maybe something interesting would happen and the trip would be worth it. Somehow he wanted to kick himself for thinking that. And that's the end of the first episode. So how the episode and what are your questions about it? Izanami asked everyone in the room. Well, we still never learned who the hell this Yang character is and what her relationship to Naruto and RWBY is. Minato stated as he reflected on the episode. That is very. Knock knock. The sound of knocking at the door cut off Jiraiya as he was speaking and everyone turned their heads to the closed door. You may enter. Izanami said to the person outside the door. Ah, do any of you know of this? I am searching for it and I would like to know if any of you all know of it, stated a man who was wearing all black shoes, black gloves, black pants, and even a hooded black cloak that covered not only his face in shadows, but his neck as well. He was holding up a sheet of paper that had unreadable symbols on it with a picture of a red ovular stone. I am terribly sorry, but I can vouch for everyone here that we do not know of such a thing as what you have on the paper. Izanami said with a polite tone. Then I am sorry for interrupting your time. I must go, he said as he went out the door he came through. As I was saying before he interrupted us, that is very correct Minato, but I would also like to know how close is Naruto to RWBY? Jiraiya asked as he looked at Izanami. Oh, only the standard twin telepathy and sharing everything to the point that they accidentally wear each other's clothes. Izanami answered. That is really embarrassing. Sasuke said with a groan. Not really, you forgot that Naruto can turn himself into a smoking hot babe of a woman. Jiraiya exclaimed with a lecherous grin on his face and a trickle of blood coming down from his nose. Jiraiya. Kushina growled out as a dark aura surrounded her and her hair split into 9 tails. And with that, I'm out. Jiraiya said as he bolted out the door to escape Kushina's wrath. My question is who's narrating the story? Sakura asked hesitantly. It says on the back of the disc case narrated by Fairy Tail Dragon Slayer, whoever that is. Minato said as he looked at the back of the case while getting out the second episode. Let's get the next episode ready and not wait for those two. Sakura said as she grabbed the remote. And? Well, let's get started on the second episode, which is named Rose Thorns. Well, Naruto and RWBY's last name is Rose, so I can see the connection between the episode name and the characters. Kushina said as she looked at the screen, resting up after having almost killed Jiraiya, who is somehow still conscious enough to watch the second episode. Thorns can be interpreted as violent, so this chapter will probably have a fight scene in it. Minato stated with an increasing frown on his face. He didn't know what kind of people were in the new dimension, but he hoped that Naruto and RWBY could handle them. Everyone, there is a new rule in place. Please refrain from commenting directly during dialogue, the council of reviewers did not like that. Izanami said as she turned the television screen on. You have to listen to a council. Sakura asked as she looked at Izanami while grabbing the remote. Only if I want to avoid having a headache for the rest of the day. Izanami replied as she once again got a bag of popcorn from who knows where. The new 50mm sniper rounds have a new brand. Naruto said as he stood inside of the Dust Till Dawn shop with his sister, he had gotten the name wrong, but in his defense he never came here. She had already bought the 2 kinds of dust ammo that she needed in the 50mm size for her crescent rose. The long-distance kind that she used for actual sniping and the explosive kind that she used for speed increased via the method of recoil and close-range blasting. Her black and white rounds, and while he used the same rounds, he liked to see what different kinds of rounds could be found. Which is good, because then he'll know which rounds to get so that he can buy the correct rounds when he needs to. Sakura said while nodding. RWBY was listening to samples of music in her personal headphones and she seemed to like the song This Will Be the Day. Naruto looked at Dust Rounds before he felt a tap on his shoulder. Hey, listen to this. RWBY told him as she extended her headphones so that they could both listen to the music at the same time. Their heads were pressed together and Naruto actually found that the music was pretty good. Oh, don't they look so cute together? Kushina said as she gushed over the picture the television was providing. Yeah, but Toussaint better not cheat on Kasan or I'll shove a Chidori up his ass. A male teenager's voice stated as 3 new people entered the room. The speaker was a blonde, spiky-haired teenager with 2 whisker marks on his face, like how Naruto had 3 in his first life. He was wearing a white shirt with black pants and a black jacket with a red inside. Annoyance was clear in his electric blue eyes. No, I don't think it is possible for Naruto to not cheat on Kasan Boruto Nisan. After all, this is a new life, and Toussaint will want kids just like he did in his first life. The second voice was from another teenager, this time from a female as she spoke to her brother. She, like Boruto, had 2 whisker marks on her cheeks, but instead of having spiky blonde hair, she had spiky blue hair and eyes that were a darker shade of blue than Boruto's. She was wearing a yellow jacket that was lighter on the sleeves and blue shorts. Imawari Imauta-chan, are you telling me that you support Tusan going after other women when he is married to Ka-san? Boruto replied angrily, not believing that his younger sibling would imply such a thing. You're correct Musume, and Sachi, if I ever catch you cussing again, I will use an 8 64 palms on you with no mercy. The third and final voice said, with more maturity and is softer than the other two, indicating that she is an older woman and the mother of the two quarreling siblings. Ah, Hinata, I'm glad you finally arrived so that you can see what your husband is doing. Gaara said with his usual impassive look. The newly named Hinata was wearing a light purple dress over top of a white collared shirt and black pants. She wore her long blue hair down and it reached the base of her spine. Yes, let's get back to watching the episode, I do want to know if he is doing well. Hinata said as she pulled up a chair and sat down. They both blinked when they heard the hissing sound of somebody filling up dust from the supply tubes. Each of them having an ear without music playing in it were able to catch the sound that caught their attention. They stopped listening to their music and Ruby put her headphones around her neck. The few men in black suits with fedoras wearing sunglasses holding swords with red blades were filling up containers with dust. And that's the telltale sign of a robbery. Sakura deadpanned, wondering how long it'll take for the idiots to get caught and arrested. The sides of the containers had bars like Naruto's pipe did, which he filled to the brim with ice and fire dust in its powdered form. Naruto and Ruby were in a corner of the store that was surrounded by racks of music and ammo, so they weren't able to see what was happening up in the front of the store. Looks like some weird people are getting some dust. Ruby said with a raised eyebrow as one of the larger, burlier men stopped in front of them. He pointed his sword at them, getting the twins to look at each other with raised eyebrows. Yep, it's definitely a robbery, at least we get to see the dope's strength now. Sasuke remarked as he watched with close attention to the screen. How dare they do that to him, trying to rob my Sachi like that. If I weren't stuck here I would rip out their spines and shove it up their asses. Kushina raged as Minato tried to hold her down and calm her, though it wasn't working. And you allow her to cuss? Boruto exclaimed as he slowly moved away from the deranged mother. Yes, because unlike you, she isn't my child. Hinata replies sternly, while keeping an eye on Kushina. Well, I better keep her out of the room when the kiss scenes happen and any time the scars are mentioned if she reacts to a robbery like this. Thought Izanami with widened eyes as she too kept an eye on Kushina. Kushina, behave yourself. If you can't handle this then I will have to remove you for it gets far worse than this. Izanami said as she looked back at the scene on the television. Kushina instantly shut up, her face paling at Izanami's implications. Put your hands where I can see 'em. The man threatened while Naruto snorted for a second. G could tell by the sass in Ruby's eyes that she wanted to make a comment, more than likely about asking if they were being robbed. I like her, she's got sass and sarcasm. Kushina said with an approving nod of her head. Everyone's sweat dropped at her comment. Obviously this person was trying to rob them, assuming by their age they would be easy pickings for his theft skills or whatever thieves call their abilities. Well, you know the saying, to assume is to make an ass out of you and me. Minato remarked with a light chuckle. The dobe was a shinobi, which is technically a thief, and he doesn't even know the skills of the trade are that of thievery. Sasuke questioned with a face palm. Naruto raised his hands in the air and Ruby snorted when she saw what Naruto was doing. Complete and utter silence was the only thing in the room. Oh. My. God, don't use my name in vain. Haven't you heard of the 10 Commandments? Did Tusan really just do what the robber asked of him? Boruto asked with sheer wonder at his father's apparent stupidity in his tone. Hinata didn't bother correcting her son for a little part of her had died when Naruto raised his hands up. The man grinned for a moment before he was knocked off his feet when Naruto jumped into the air as Ruby spun around and swung crescent rose in its dormant form like a baseball bat and smashed him in the face. He smashed through a magazine rack before he landed across the store after rolling for a bit, his nose bleeding and a tooth knocked out. Naruto landed on his feet while taking his weapon out of its carrier. Ah, so that's why Tusan complied with the robber. Set him up only to knock him down. Boruto remarked with understanding in his eyes. Damn it, I wanted to see the dope fight, not his sister. Sasuke scowled as he looked at the screen. Patience Sasuke, patience. We'll eventually see Naruto-kun fight. Hinata replied as she looked from the television. They did this because of how much space their weapons took, which is a fair amount of space. Ruby ignored this as she swung her weapon around and it activated before unfolding and changing shape into a large scythe. If I remember correctly, Naruto and Ruby have variations of the same weapon, so now we can have an idea of what he wields. Minato remarked as he watched the scene. You're correct, and Ruby even made our Sachi's weapon so it would be similar to hers as well. Kushina stated as she remembered the first episode. Flashback. Having been taught how to use a high-caliber sniper scythe by his uncle, he had decided that he would follow in not only in his uncle's footsteps, but also take the same weapon as his annoying sister. He had zero mechanical skill, so his sister had actually created the weapon, he just used it and maintained it. Flashback end. The weapon was much larger than Ruby herself, being 7 feet tall, with a curved blade, which is multiple blades layered on top of each other to create a single blade, was over 4 feet long. The back of the blade had sort of an axe part to it that was more blunted than the blade itself. At the tip was an opening for shots to come out, and the staff of the weapon had a cartridge holder for bullets and a trigger so that she could shoot ammo even in scythe form. Now that's a cool weapon to have, but what's the second form of it? A rifle? Sakura asked rhetorically. Yes, Sakura, you're correct. Izanami said without blinking an eye. That was supposed to be a rhetorical question. Sakura deadpanned. And I gave you a rhetorical answer. Izanami replied without even turning her head to look at Sakura. Burned. Boruto shouted as he laughed at Sakura's crestfallen face, which was slowly turning red from embarrassment. Gay, just start the episode again. Sakura stuttered as she tried and failed to hide her embarrassment. Standing in the front of the store was an orange-haired man wearing a white jacket with black pants and was wearing a black hat with a red band around it. He had thick black gloves on and a gray scarf around his throat. In his mouth was a cigar and his hair was pushed to the right side of his face, covering his right eye, but his left eye showed that he had green eyes. He wore a high collar with a red interior and in his hand was a wide-handled weaponized cane, judging by the thicker red portions around the end and where the handle met with the rest of the cane. The man was tall, but he had a sassy, if not criminal aura about him. And here is the leader of the thieves. Doesn't he know that the leader never goes on heists with his goons? Himawari asked while bringing a finger to her chin as if she was in a thinking pose. Bet them. The orange-haired man said with a twitch of his head as the 4 remaining goons rushed towards Naruto and RWBY with their weapons in their hands. Naruto ducked under a sword strike before he returned with a double palm thrust to the center of the man's chest. With a blast of aura, the man's suit ripped up to show his bruised chest as he was sent flying before slamming into a wall. RWBY spun herself around and smashed the blunt end of her scythe into the man charging at her, sending him flying and crashing out the store window. And that is why you don't mess with Tusan, because if you do, he'll make pain the only thing you feel. Boruto shouted as he high-fived his sister, who was also cheering on her father. Pick their butts, Tusan. Naruto flipped into the air and kicked the third man in the chin, while also dodging RWBY's scythe. He activated his own scythe before he and RWBY spun in sync and smacked the fourth man in the chest with the thin ends of their weapons. He was knocked from his feet and would have hit the orange-haired man if the guy hadn't ducked and let the goon land outside of the shop. Naruto landed on his feet while RWBY stopped spinning around, with all 4 goons defeated in seconds. They both seemed to stick in a pose when they stopped. Yeah, Guy and Lee seemed to have corrupted the dope, who then corrupted his sister. Only those 2 would stick a pose after an attack. Sasuke said as he stared apathetically at the television. Naruto's orange scythe and her red one seemed to line up just perfectly so that the stems were crossed and the blades lined up to make a heart shape. Combination. Heart rose. Naruto and RWBY said in sync with smiles on their faces. They had trained together by the same man in the art of using high-caliber sniper scythes, and thus, as they had been learning to fight with the weapons they had developed their own in-sync style, where they could work together perfectly. Oh, and I was prepared to berate him for the name, but now that I know that, it was probably the sister who named the combination. Sakura said as she both complimented and dissed Naruto. RWBY had so affectionately named their combined style Twin Rose, while Naruto thought the Rose Thorn sounded cooler in the end. Their older sibling picked Twin Rose for them because the name also stated that it was the twins using the style. Yeah, go unknown sibling we never heard of and is probably this Yang character that we also never learned about. Kushina sarcastically said as she assumed who the sibling was. You know what? You're probably correct on that statement. Let's continue watching to find out. Minato stated as he pressed the play button, wondering why it's only him pressing the play button. They are so going to be angry when they find out Yang isn't introduced in this chapter. Izanami thought as she silently laughed at what their expressions would be when they learned of that fact. You guys aren't worth the money and this where I make my exit. The man said as he rushed out of the building by jumping out the window. He got out just in time before a large orange hand would have grabbed him, but soon the hand retracted into Naruto, who was scowling for a moment at how the person was starting to get away. So close, yet so far away. Minato remarked as he snapped his fingers at how close Naruto had gotten to catch the criminal. He and RWBY started running towards the window to follow after the man before RWBY waved at the old man who owns the store, Mr. Wok. Naruto was pretty sure it was Mr. Wok. They're after a criminal who just robbed a store and yet RWBY finds time to wave at an old man and the dope finds time to question who the said old man is. Sasuke deadpanned as he groaned at the twins' stupidity. Hey, we are going after him, okay? Ruby shouted, but they didn't get to hear his answer seeing as they both jumped out the window without a second thought. They looked around for a sight of bright orange or white, the main colors on the man that attracted attention to him. They looked around with silver eyes determined before they saw a white jacket on the side of the wall, climbing up a ladder. That ruined his escape for me. Hinata said as she face-palmed. That ruined his escape for me. Naruto said with a raised eyebrow as they started to run towards the building he was climbing up. Well, what do you know? Great minds think alike after all. Boruto said, complimenting his mother and father at the same time. RWBY jumped onto Naruto's shoulders as two hands came out of his back and stretched out to grip two separate buildings, digging into them before they jerked and both of the side users were sent flying towards the top of the roof and then a good bit above the roof when RWBY jumped off Naruto and landed on the roof. Naruto landed a few meters away from her, ready for a fight. His Uzumaki rose strapped to the back of his belt as he took up a hand-to-hand combat stance. So now two sands reduced to nothing more than an overglorified slingshot. Himawari commented as she watched the preparation for the fight. Stop there and bring back the dust you stole. RWBY called out to the man, who stopped at the end of the building. The man cursed under his breath, and Naruto smirked. First rule of thievery, never stop when some tells you to stop. Second rule of thievery, don't get caught in the first place, so that rule number 1 is never needed. Sasuke told the group as they all face-palmed at the criminal's stupidity. This was only for a moment. Then RWBY and Naruto were forced to take a step back when they were hit back by a large amount of wind pressure as a bullhead appeared up in front of the building. The bullhead was a more basic one built for speed, with two wings with jets pointed towards the ground, and the hatch was currently open with a light shining at them. It was lightly armored near the front and on the wings, and while the man stepped onto the bullhead, it started to fly up into the air. Rule number 3, always have a backup escape plan or an escape plan that can never fail in the case the first two rules fail you. Sasuke again said as he gave the criminal a redemption point. End of the line read. He shouted over the roar of the bullhead while Naruto raised an eyebrow. He wore a long red scarf and had red tips in his hair. RWBY wore a red cloak and had red tips in her hair. So which one is he talking about, Naruto-kun or RWBY? Hinata commented, beginning to wonder where the hell Jiraiya went to before dismissing it knowing he went to peep on some women in the hot springs for research. Is he talking about me or you? RWBY asked Naruto, having wondered the same thing. Naruto shrugged his shoulders before he heard the sounds of something tinkling and saw the red dust crystal on the ground in front of them. The crook proved Naruto right in his earlier guess as he pointed his cane at them and Naruto picked up the dust crystal and threw it at the shot raining down at them. The red dust crystal collided with the shot in midair, though the man's laughing was heard. The explosion scattered red smoke everywhere while Naruto noticed a person land on the ground in front of them. Why shoot something that you're stealing, unless Kushina stated as her eyes slowly widened with realization of what dust truly is. Yes, your assumption is correct, dust can be used as a medium to control the elements and even as explosives in the hands of hunters and huntresses or the protectors of this dimension. Izanami stated as she confirmed Kushina's speculations. Everyone's eyes widened at that and the implications behind it. Protecting them from the explosion itself, even though Naruto moved in front of RWBY to protect her, was a grown woman with her hair placed in a bun at the back of her head. She wore a white blouse with long sleeves and a ripped-up purple cape over her shoulders and a black corset with golden buttons around her stomach with a black skirt, black stockings, and black shoes on. She had bright green eyes, with glasses in front of those eyes, and she was holding a black riding crop in her right hand. In front of that was a purple magical circle, seeming to defend them from the explosion. So what's her name going to be, something witch? Because her theme is that of a witch. Minato asked as he noticed Jiraiya slipping into the room. She stood nearly a whole foot taller than Naruto, making her about 6 foot and maybe 5 inches tall. Her figure was that of a perfect Hercules and she was rather large-chested or normal-chested for her height, he could never be sure. He didn't understand boobs and all that stuff other than the fact that they were sexy. To be honest, I myself am in the same boat as Naruto, so don't kill Jiraiya for that one Kushi-chan, for it's probably my genetics that somehow still affect him. Minato said as he calmed Kushina down. Thank you, Minato. Jiraiya said as he peeked out from behind the couch. Tallest woman he ever met. Suddenly she seemed to take it upon herself to take the fight into her own hands, something that pissed Naruto off when she waved her riding crop and her circle turned into purple balls that were fired towards the bullhead, smashing against it in multiple places and knocking it around a bit. The bullhead stabilized quickly while RWBY changes crescent rose to sniper mode as the blade was folded in and it became a compact weapon. The man went deeper into the bullhead and vanished. The woman in front of them shot a purple orb into the sky before dark clouds gathered above the bullhead. To catch you. Use thunder. Boruto yelled as he pointed at the screen. Naruto, what was that from, and what is a Pikachu? Kushina asked her grandson with a weird look on her face. I don't know, but I feel like I just used a reference correctly, even though I'm not supposed to know what the reference is. It's like there's some person orchestrating all of this and randomly decided to make me say the random stuff. Naruto said as he looked upright at me. Naruto, no more breaking the fourth wall. You could accidentally summon the RWBY at 10 times its max power. More like I would summon it there to teach him a lesson. Should I summon a Cthulhu? Nah, no one would get the reference. Everyone, including Izanami, paled at the thought. Let's just watch the episode and forget this ever happened. Naruto stuttered as he pressed the play button. She waved her riding crop down, and chunks of ice started to rain down onto the bullhead, piercing many parts of it, but not taking it down. One would expect lightning to come down from a thundercloud, but no. She just had to summon ice out of it. Sakura stated with a twitching eyebrow. What, isn't the bullhead full of highly dangerous explosive? Hinata asked. Yes, it is. Why the hell is that woman trying to destroy the bullhead? Kushina shouted at the top of her lungs. Are you a dumbass? Naruto shouted at the woman, who looked back at him with narrowed eyes. Even Misachi agrees with me. That woman is a dumbass. Kushina told everyone. Naruto. Ruby gasped at his disrespectful tone toward somebody helping them. Well, she hasn't got the memo that the woman almost blew a city block. Himawari stated with narrowed eyes, wondering who someone could overlook that small fact. Maybe Ruby's trying to be an optimist. Jiraiya said as he too wondered how the sister could overlook that fact. What? She is trying to crash a bullhead with dust on it in the middle of the city. Naruto exclaimed, while the woman clicked her teeth when she realized that he was right about how bad what she had done could have been. And now she realizes her mistake, but what the hell is the criminal doing? The bullhead is practically sitting there waiting for them to finish their conversation. Naruto said, asking the question that everyone wanted to know the answer to. It was at this point that a woman, with her upper body covered in shadows, wearing a red dress that went down to the middle of her thighs with a slit up the right side with black feathers and black crystal high heels, stepped near the end of the bullhead. Oh, the criminals were allowing this new person, who will probably never be named, to get ready and fight off Naruto, Ruby, and unnamed female too. Jiraiya stated as he sweat dropped, along with everyone else when they realized that he was most likely right. Her long red sleeves glowed with yellow flame symbols, and fire gathered around her hands as she went through motions. But then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Himawari said, remembering a show she watched when she was younger. That was perfect timing. Minato said, chuckling at his granddaughter's sense of humor. Not just flame, but it seemed to be liquid flame. Not lava, but actual flame with liquid inside of it. These semblances are truly annoying to figure out. First we have speed, then extra arms, then magic, and now we have liquid flames. I give up on figuring out how this dimension works. Sakura commented with a heavy sigh. She shot her attack towards them, and the witch-like woman created a triple-layered magic barrier circle in front of herself, who the shot was aimed at. She was surprised though when. Surprise but sex happened. Jiraiya shouted, his perverted leer on. No, never again. You will die if you even think of that again. Sasuke threatened as he pulled out his Shakudo. An orange glowing aura hand extended in front of her and stopped the attack before clenching the attack in the large hand. Ruby started to fire shots towards the woman as she fired more shots at them, and Naruto continued to have the arm he had manifested to catch the shots. Naruto's hand vanished when burns started to appear on Naruto's left hand. The woman used her aura to somehow block each of Ruby's shots with her bare hands, negating the power behind them somehow. The witch-like woman fired a purple shot at the bullhead again, instead of directly at the woman, and it rocked the bullhead again. How did the burns appear on Naruto's hand when it was only the aura hand that received damage? Minato wondered out loud. Some types of damage must transfer over when the hand is injured, thus why his hand is hurt. Sakura said as she inspected the scene, trying to figure out the proper reason on why Naruto was hurt. Naruto took out his own Uzumaki Rose before he switched it to sniper mode. He started to fire towards the glass of the cockpit while two orange flaming arms extended out his back. Ruby copied his actions and started to fire at the glass, breaking it apart while Naruto's extra limbs extended towards the bullhead and grabbed the bullhead. Smart tactic. Take out the pilot while making sure the bullhead itself doesn't crash. I taught him well. A new voice said as the person entered the room. The man who entered was a tall but lanky silver-haired man whose hair was spiked to the left side. He wore a headband slanted on his forehead to cover his right eye and a blue face mask that went up to the bridge of his nose. He, like Minato, wore a green flak jacket with 3 pouches on each side. He was wearing a blue shirt that had red swirls on each shoulder and blue pants that partially covered his blue sandals. On his right leg around the thighs was a shuriken and kunai holster. Ah, Kakashi. It's about time you showed up. Kushina said to the man as he rubbed the back of his neck. Mama, I got lost on the road of life, which took me to the highway to hell. After a couple of miles I found the stairway to heaven and took a right. Which is how I got here, that answer your questions. Replied with his usual bored tone. Yes, well you were on the highway and stairway. Did you listen to Highway to Hell by AC/DC and Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin respectively? Izanami asked with a closed eyes smile, reminding everyone of Naruto. So that's the names of those songs I heard, well back to the show now. He replied. The hatch closed and the bullhead started to turn away and the jets changed the direction they were pointing. It was about to get away before Naruto's aura arms grabbed the wings and started to pull back on them to prevent the criminal's escape. Ha! Go Sachi! Kushina yelled as she pumped her fist into the air. Arg! Ruby, take out the jets now. Naruto called out as he aimed at the right jet, with Ruby aiming at the left one. The witch-like woman was about to comment to Naruto about how he was going to crash the bullhead, like he got onto her about, but she was surprised when Supri Jiraiya started before he was silenced by a glaring Sasuke. What did I say? He growled out menacingly as he drew his Shakudo. Not to do what I was about to do. Jiraiya replied crestfallenly. Good, now remember it. The jets exploded, yet the bullhead didn't drop towards to the ground. Instead, it started to lower more gently to the ground as the hatch opened up. The orange-haired man jumped out of the bullhead with a case in his hands, while the woman seemed to quickly move out of the bullhead after him. They were a good distance away already, but when they got to a motorcycle and got on it, and when the motorcycle started to quickly move away, Naruto frowned and gently set down the bullhead. 50 Ryo says that was Naruto's motorcycle, and he's going to flip when he realizes it. Kakashi bet as he held out the money. Not taking it, we all know that was Naruto's and that he's going to flip. The only question is how long do we have to wait? Minato replied. His arms had a limit to how far they could go and how large they could get. Ruby with her speed might be able to catch up to them, but sadly the level of these people were too high for her to fight alone, and she knew that. Naruto's extra limbs came back into his back before vanishing, while Naruto clicked his teeth in annoyance. They got away. Ruby said with a click of her own teeth, annoyed that the perps were already out of sight when they turned down a different street. Wait for it. In 3, 2, 1 and now. Minato counted down to Naruto's explosion. Wait, that was my stinger. Naruto shouted when he realized the motorcycle that was stolen happened to be his motorcycle. The fuck? And called it. Minato said with a smug look on his face for being the one to accurately time Naruto's outburst. That was our ride home. Ruby shouted in a panic since that actually was the way they were going to be getting home. Now it would take so many hours of running, then a boat ride, and then more running before they got back home on the island of Patch they lived on. Ouch, now that's a long way to go just for the ammunition they need and to get back. Kakashi said with a wince. I don't know who you are, but when I find you I will shove that cane up your butt so far it will come out your mouth. Naruto shouted into the wind while Ruby patted him on the back. There was a cough behind them before they turned to see the witch-like lady standing behind them with her arms crossed. And they're in trouble now, let's hope they get off lightly. Boruto said with a laugh. Oh yeah, the lady who almost blew up a bullhead full of stolen dust. Ruby thought when her mind registered Naruto's earlier comment. Why the hell did you have to get in the way? Not only did you get in the way of our business, but you nearly blew up a bullhead that might have been filled with stolen dust. You could have blown us and a few city blocks up to Kingdom Come. Naruto shouted at the woman, who was honestly taken back by the way he was yelling at her. Put it that way and the entire situation is a lot worse than what it originally seemed to be. Hinata said nervously as she watched her husband verbally give the woman a new one. See here young man, I came to ask you the same thing on why you were recklessly endangering yourselves here. It was a dangerous thing to do. The woman told him and Naruto stomped his foot on the ground. What I do with my life is none of your business. I would rather risk my life to stop people from stealing dust and possibly using it to endanger others than to sit back and do nothing. My parents raised both me and my sister to help people in need. Naruto said with visible anger in his eyes. Well, I applaud Two-Sen's parents for raising him to be the way every person should be. Himawari said with pride in her eyes. Yes Musume, all people should be like your Two-Sen. Hinata said, agreeing with her daughter. He knew that if this woman hadn't gotten in the way, then maybe he could have stopped those people before they escaped. Instead, he and Ruby had to fight differently than they normally did because of somebody butting in and acting on their own. They hadn't wanted to hurt this woman in case she did something that unknowingly placed her in front of one of their combinations. They couldn't stop these criminals, who were now gone with who knows how much dust in that case, and were more likely going to steal more dust and hurt more people. He just keeps saying it in the worst way possible to make it seem like this woman is a complete idiot. Minato stated with narrowed eyes. Well honestly, she is an idiot. She put herself in a fight that was already under control, interrupted the fight and caused them to lose the fight. Kushina shot at him. Sorry sensei, but I have to agree with Kushina on that one. Kakashi said sheepishly. Normally he was very patient with people and a happy person in general, but he and Ruby had the situation under control. They didn't need the woman to help, while Ruby placed her hand on Naruto's shoulder. See, even Naruto agrees with us on the fact that he had the situation under control with Ruby and the woman messed it all up. Kakashi said impassively as he pulled out a non-smut novel. Kakashi, why are you not reading the Icha series? Jiraiya asked with worry in his voice. Oh, I'm just branching out and trying new genres. That and Rin would castrate me if she caught me reading the series. He replied. Whipped. Boruto said, snickering under his breath. Naruto, calm down, here. Ruby told him as he got out his pipe and took a deep drag of ice dust that literally cooled him down a bit as he breathed out mist that froze parts of the roof in front of him that the mist touched. Ruby looked at the woman with a sorry expression before she placed her hands together. Sorry, but when my brother uses his semblance he can get angry easier than he normally does. Ruby told the woman, who was surprised. Let me guess, it only happens if there is something to get him angry about. Sakura told the group, who nodded in agreement. Naruto frowned for a moment but groaned when he looked at his burned left hand. One of the two drawbacks of his semblance was that after and during using it, Naruto was more easily influenced by his emotion, or to be more exact, anger. He could normally control this by not getting angry, and it didn't mean anything if there was nothing to get angry over. His pipe and ice dust usually helped to quickly relieve him of this side effect as well, cooling down his boiling blood quicker than it normally would be. Told you so. Sakura said with a small, smug smile. The second drawback, his real arms felt any damage that his extra ones took. Sometimes though, some attacks of a certain type could actually send the damage over to his real arms to a lighter degree. It was the backlash that blocking certain attacks dealt to his arms, but even those attacks had to be powerful enough to actually hurt his extra arms. Normally this wasn't a problem, but it was now because that woman had used an attack with enough power in it to actually damage his arm. And there's limiter number 2. Jiraiya jokingly said as everyone thought the reason to have such a limiter was to keep Naruto from being generally overpowered. Naruto's skin only suffered from minor burns, and soon even those vanished. The wounds caused by the backlash only lasted for a short amount of time. His large and potent aura actually imitated accelerated healing, so light burns like these didn't last that long. He has his healing factor again, only this time due to having extremely large aura reserves. Minato asked in a deadpan tone. Yep, and it'll be a bitch to take him down because of it. Jiraiya told him, with a face palm that his student would even ask such a thing. If you paid attention, the dobe has a small healing factor, which means that he can still be taken down by heavy attacks. Sasuke commented, closing his eyes with a sigh. No, he does bring up a good point, but at the time I had no way of knowing of any stolen dust. Anyway, I could have stopped the bullhead from hitting the ground. The woman assured, though she seemed very interested in Naruto. Shotokan anyone? He's fucking 15 for Kami's sake. Minato shouted, completely taking the woman's interest in his son the wrong way. You could have taken it the wrong way, you know. Jiraiya said to his old pupil. I know, but I'm still sticking with my view on it. Minato shouted. I guess I'm sorry for snapping at you. Naruto said while scratching his cheek. He didn't know that she could have stopped it from hitting the ground, and he guessed that if she didn't know that dust was on the bullhead, then she didn't know that destroying the craft would have blown them all up. Honest mistakes like that could be forgiven, while the woman nodded her head and looked at both Naruto and Ruby with narrowed eyes. And here comes the punishment that we all knew was coming. Sakura commented, wondering what would be the punishment that is given out to the twins. You're both going to be coming with me now. The woman told Naruto and Ruby, with Ruby's quick paling, while Naruto sighed and rubbed the back of his head in annoyance. The day was not a fun day. And that's the end of the chapter. Minato told everyone with a smile on his face. Wait for it in 3, 2, 1 and now. Izanami thought to herself with a knowing smile, which was beginning to unnerve some of the occupants. What the fuck? We never learned who this Yang is or who the sister is. Sakura screamed in pure rage. Oh, wait. There's more stuff on the screen. Minato said as he was going over the television to put in a new episode. Asura's blessing creates up to 4 arms of aura to be used by the user. The length and size of the limbs are not limited to the size of the user's arms, but do have a limit, drawbacks. A certain brand of attacks can cause a damage backlash if the attack is powerful enough, aura-based attacks the user will have more trouble controlling emotions after prolonged use. Note. Only a certain amount of damage is transferred. Cutting off the aura arm won't cut off Naruto's real arm, but he will feel the pain. The arms have no bones, so Naruto's bones won't be broken either. Didn't expect that to happen, but now we know the drawbacks and its abilities now. Kakashi said with his single eyebrow raised in a questioning manner. Okay, now that the episode is over, let's review, and no complaining about never learning who Yang is. Izanami said as she put down a paperback book after marking her place at the beginning of the fourth chapter, which unknown to the group was the book version of what they were watching. We finally saw the Dobe's fighting skills, and considering his circumstances, is pretty impressive. Sasuke said with a nod of approval. Not only that, but Ruby's and Naruto's individual fighting styles complement each other very nicely. Sakura stated as she got over her rage. Yeah, that's all that really happened. Naruto and RWBY go to a new place, fight some criminals, and get punished for trying to stop them, which is very stupid in my opinion. Jiraiya said as he face-palmed on the last part. Well then, I guess it's time for episode 3. Izanami said, barely able to hide her laughter when she once again imagined their face when the group learned that Yang wouldn't be introduced till the episode after the one they're about to start. Story end. Okay everyone, the third chapter, episode Thinji is about to begin, and you'll probably be extremely mad at both it and Izanami. A cheerful voice spoke out, resonating throughout the room. Who the hell are you, you random voice thing? Kushina shouted while waving her fist comically in what just happened to be the wrong direction. Kushina-chan, he's right there. Also don't hit him, he's one of my two main bosses. Izanami stated with a groan, hoping what he said would be false. You have a boss. Screamed Sakura as she pointed at both Izanami and the new person. Yes, I'm her boss, along with FTDS, who also happens to be in a slightly higher position than me. The person said with a smile on his face. The other occupants finally got a good look at the newcomer when he stepped out of the shadows. He was around 5 foot 7 inches, with long brownish blonde hair pulled into a ponytail that reached the center of his back. His blue, green, or was it gray? The others couldn't tell what eye color he had since they changed with the light. But they did know that they shone with happiness and some mischievousness in them, which set off warning bells in their heads. He was wearing a loose black shirt with white print on them, spelling out words they can't read and dark blue jeans. Around his neck were red headphones whose cord went all the way down to his pocket before disappearing into the right one. His build was feminine, making many of the occupants mistake him for a girl, even though Izanami confirmed his gender as a male, though the long hair probably didn't help disprove their beliefs. So who's the girl, where's your boss, and what's his name? Sasuke said as he looked around the room for another new person, missing Izanami's paling face and the new person's growing smirk. In answer to your questions I reverse order, I'm ROXAS2913 or Roxas for short, I am the boss you're looking for, and the same could be said for you. The newly named Roxas said with a smirk as Sasuke looked at him quizzically. What do you mean by that, unlike you I am a guy and I look like a guy? Sasuke stated arrogantly while the rest of the room began to laugh quietly. Now you don't, and if you don't believe me, look down and check in your pants. Roxas said as he pointed at Sasuke's chest area, making him look down to find out that his chest had grown. Sasuke quickly turned around for a few moments before a girlish scream was heard from her. She turned around and stalked over to Roxas before attempting to slug him in the face. Now then you wouldn't want to do that Satsuki. I can make look ugly too if I wanted to do so. Roxas stated as he caught her fist. Satsuki? Why did you give me another name? The renamed Satsuki said before she remembered that Naruto changed his name to Natsumi when he changed genders. Well enough stalling, let's get going. Sadly the TV can only be turned on for a short amount of time, so Izanami has to surrender the book so that we can continue on the reading of story. Roxas said gleefully as he stole Izanami's book and threw the book at Satsuki, who barely caught it and was sent back 2 feet from the force of the throw, causing the other occupants of the room to stare at him due to his strength. We had a book for what we're watching. Satsuki deadpanned as she flipped through it to get to the third chapter. Chapter 3. Rose is going to beacon. And already there's doubt about Naruto doing something smart for once. Sakura commented with a barely suppressed chuckle at the chapter's title. Can we stop dissing my Sachi now? I don't like it and the readers don't like it. Kushina said as she glared at Sakura. Readers? There's people watching this. Don't ask. I don't, you little kiddies losing your sanity. Roxa said with a slightly strained smile. I don't see why we're here. We did nothing wrong, not only that, but that bullhead had been filled to the brim with dust that those crooks had been forced to leave behind. Naruto said with crossed arms as he and RWBY sat in a dark room with only a single table with a light hanging over it. Ah, the good old interrogation room. Perfect for intimidation and information purposes, Jiraiya said with a nod of his head. The witch-like woman was walking around them, seeming to find Naruto's words both filled with truth but at the same time foolish. You endangered yourselves and others tonight, and while your actions are commendable, I will not tolerate such disregard for your actions. The woman who Naruto and RWBY had remembered to be a teacher at Beacon named Glinda Goodwitch, which was ironic given that she really resembled her name. Beacon, wasn't that the place in the title of the chapter? Sakura asked while putting a finger to her chin in the stereotypical thinking posture. Yes, it was. I'm just wondering how bad the naming schemes and color schemes can get in this world. Satsuki replied. Oh, it can get pretty bad. Just wait till you see Ruby's team and team name. Ruby's last team member is her mysterious sister. Roxas answered with a smirk. So we finally get to see her. Satsuki said with a smirk. Sure, you totally will get to not see her this chapter. Roxas said with his grin getting wider and wider by the second. Okay, let's continue reading again. Satsuki said, completely missing the "not that" Roxas muttered under his breath. She snapped her riding crop against the table in front of them. Naruto didn't even flinch, but Ruby jerked back at the surprise movement and the loud sound. Okay, who thought she was going to hit one of them? Sakura asked as around half of the occupants in the room raised their hands in agreement. Yeah, and what if we didn't do anything? I couldn't live with myself if I knew that me doing nothing caused people to die. Naruto told Glinda with narrowed eyes. Yeah, she did have a point. Fighting in a city period endangered lives, but not fighting placed even more in danger. Whoever raised him did a great job, I just wish it could have been me. Minato said with a sad smile. Naruto has a point, if we didn't do anything wrong, why are we here? Ruby asked with her hand raised a bit before she jumped when the sound of the riding crop hit the table. And this is why you don't raise your hand in school, kiddies, you get smacked at. Roxas said with a smirk. Shut up. Kushina said with a slight shiver, remembering all the times she was smacked for not paying attention. Minato started to chuckle before everyone noticed a dark aura radiate off of Kushina when. It was at this moment Minato knew, he fucked up. Not going to question it. Not going to question it. Not going to. What the fucking hell was that? Kushina screamed, her rage at Minato temporarily forgotten. Am I the only one who saw that video? Damn, I thought I put a sign on the door saying that the video had to be watched first. Hinata, can you check the door if the sign is there? Roxas asked as he put a finger to his chin, adopting that cheesy thinking pose that everyone has done at least once in their life. Wait, will I check? Yep, it's there alright. Hinata said after getting up to check if the sign is there. That was the wrong door. Go 1 inch to the right next time. How can there be a door whose handle is 1 inch from the handle of another door? Are you questioning my logic again? What logic? Now, one last question, does anyone here have a feeling like we're being watched or that we're only entertainment for a higher being? Roxas asked with a serious expression on his face, looking around the room before shaking his head at their confused faces. Yes, it was only me then. Well, let's get back to the story then. She had a worried expression on her face while Naruto frowned and took a deep breath of his pipe as the cold dust filled his lungs and cooled down the temper that wanted him to rage out of control. It sounds similar to when Naruto was first using Kurama's chakra, filled with hatred that made him want to lash out at everything. Jiraiya stated, remembering when Naruto went into the four-tailed state against him. Sadly, his blood was still boiling a bit, but with each drag he was cooling down more. If Glinda hadn't angered him in the first place, he wouldn't need a cool down time. That nasty little side effect only took effect when he had something to be angry about. And subtle diss on Glinda, good job FTDS, Roxas stated with a smirk. You two wield some of the most dangerous weapons ever designed, and despite how reckless your actions were, I was able to see your teamwork was not only flawless, but you two seem to be talented. Even the recording in the store shows your fighting styles mesh without flaw, and you have somebody that would like to talk with you about that. Glinda admitted, being forced to say that she was impressed with what she saw. Okay, so how are Naruto and Ruby's weapons the most dangerous types out there? Is there some sort of risks involved, and if so, what are they? Kushina asked with worry clearly in her voice. Sadly yes, the risks are limb loss, severe injuries, and even death. I'll even pull an excerpt from another one of FTDS's worlds to show you how dangerous it is. Roxas stated sadly, since he already viewed what had happened in it. I am about to play the entire scene, and I will tell you where it is from after the scene is over, so please hold off on questions and do not interrupt for anything. Roxas said, making everyone freeze since the voice that held tons of energy and excitement was now dead, as if he was remembering a horrible incident. The waiter stopped by their table and placed a drink in front of them. The waiter was a man sitting in a wheelchair. He had long black hair and he would be rather tall were it not for the chair he was confined to. He wore a green tunic-like top with white pants and he had his right leg missing at the knee. His leg of his pants on that leg were pulled and tied up so that he didn't have a pant leg hanging loose. Thank you, Naruto started to say before he paused. Ren said as he started to roll away from the table and Naruto looked towards Ruby and Ruby was staring at Ren, or rather, she was staring at where his leg was missing. Anyway, why are we even here? I mean, why this place of all places? How did you get Dad to agree to this? Naruto asked as he gestured with his hand towards where they were. Yang was visible at a different table, watching what was happening very closely. Taeyang was with her as well, the two of them keeping a very close watchful eye on what was happening at the moment. Of course neither Naruto nor Ruby were aware of the fact that their sister and father were currently watching them. I told him this was for your therapy to get you gross used to women again. Ruby said, and she turned a little red and looked away from what was happening on stage. Let it be known that Ruby was neither straight, gay, nor bi, at this point she had zero sexual attraction to anything. So being in a strip club did nothing for her. Kushina started to shout before she found out that she couldn't even move her mouth, much less speak. She looked over at Roxas with a slight glare, only to shiver in fear when he returned the glare 100-fold. Never mind, I wonder what happened to that Ren dude. Naruto asked as he looked towards the waiter. Naruto was stunned when he felt something drop into his lap and he saw one of the girls who had yet to appear on stage was sitting in his lap. Naruto was frozen solid where he sat, while Ruby pumped her fist when she got a single look at this girl. She was shorter than even Ruby, which was awesome in Ruby's eyes. The girl had zero personal boundary issues. She was a short girl, standing a few inches shorter than even Ruby. She was attractive, very attractive given her shorter stature. Shorter orange hair, Naruto loved her hair already, and she had bright green eyes. She's something a bit more modest than what the other people wore. She had a thin frame, though she wasn't as thin as Ruby was. She looked like she had a little bit more muscle than Ruby did, which would explain a lot. She was still feminine and looked amazing if a bit lacking in the breast department. She was wearing a fluffy bra that looked like sheep wool and she was wearing similar booty shorts and arm warmers that were fluffy as well with fluffy shoes. She was just so soft and fluffy. "Who are you?" Ruby asked, as if a stripper sitting on Naruto's lap was a normal thing. "I'm Nora, Ren's bestest buddy and like ever," Nora said with a thumbs up and a grin, with Naruto slowly snapping out of his shock. She was nice and short, but that short stature reminded him a bit of Neo. "Why is he missing a leg?" Ruby asked bluntly, and Nora took no offense to it. "You know that guy Summer Branwen? Well, Ren saw the way that kid used a scythe and tried to learn how to use it himself. Of course, this was before we learned what aura was and there was an accident and he cut his leg off," Nora said, with Naruto's face freezing again for a different reason. Naruto had actually heard of that accident, him and Crow had talked about it. It was the reason that the scythe was restricted to people who were good enough to handle it or had a master to teach it to them. "The clip is now over, everyone may speak again," Roxa said, wincing at the memory of when he had learned why the Naruto of that world had a fear of women. "Okay, I have a few questions and they will be answered or you will never have kids," Kushina said, her voice growing louder and louder with each word she said. "Go on, I will not answer one question only for that would ruin something that you would learn about the world we're currently reading about," Roxa said as he turned away to hide the stray tear he had on his face. 1. Why were Naruto and Ruby in a strip club? Kushina asked, already fearing the answer. As the clip stated, to help with Naruto's therapy with his fear of women. Roxas replied, having finally got his emotions in check. 2 and 3, who was this Neo chick and why does he need therapy? Kushina ordered, panic filling her mind as it jumped to conclusions, each one worse than the last. Neo is the reason why Naruto requires therapy, and for who she is, let's just say she's a criminal, a very bad and extremely dangerous criminal. Roxas stated as he looked back at the paused television screen, only for it to flicker out again and become useless. Final question. What did she do to my Sachi? Kushina said as she walked towards Roxas, each step punctuated with a word. Roxas mumbled out, unable to look Kushina in the eyes to tell her what happened. "What was that? I didn't hear you." Kushina growled out as she leaned closer to Roxas, forcing him to look at her straight in the eyes. "I can't bring myself to tell you, so once again I'll show you the clip, only unlike this one, which took place in the 20th chapter, this clip will include the end of 12 and the beginning of 13. Roxas said, crumbling under Kushina's harsh glare. Now note, this world is known as Naruto the Scythe Master Remastered, and if the council of reviewers tell me that I have to switch focuses, then this will be the one we are watching. Roxas said, turning back toward the television as it turned on again, missing everyone's shocked faces. That means if different things had occurred, then whatever happened to that Naruto would have happened to this Naruto. Minato stated in horror, while Kushina couldn't keep the tears from falling. "Ah-chan, what does Minato Jiji mean about that?" Himawari asked Hinata, who was also frozen in horror along with Satsuki, Sakura and Boruto. "He means that what you're about to see now could have happened to your two-san," Roxas stated as he pressed the play button. The girl he had spotted seemed to be a little older than he and Ruby were, though she was a lot shorter, even though she was wearing heels. She stood at maybe 4'9" at the moment, though her face showed maturity. She was super tiny, which Naruto found awesome, since this would be the first girl, other than Ruby, that he didn't have to look up to. She had tri-colored hair, with it being pink and brown with white streaks. She wore a black undershirt on, with a white jacket with pink cuffs and a pink collar. She had her large cleavage exposed and wore brown gloves on. She had brown pants and tall white boots with brown buttons. She is cute, but why do you like girls so much? RWBY asked Naruto. Since she didn't care about romance, she found it strange that Naruto cared. Ever since I could remember hitting puberty, I feel like there has been this romantic hole in my heart. That there is supposed to be somebody with me that I'm missing. Naruto admitted lowly to RWBY. It was like he was missing half of himself. What do you mean? RWBY asked, wondering how he could be missing somebody other than their mother. Naruto still had everyone in his life, other than the mentioned mother. I feel like I am missing somebody important to me, that is all. I don't know, but what I think I might be missing a woman. Naruto questioned with a deeper frown. It was like there was an important woman to him just gone and he needed something to fill the void that she had left. Whoever she is. Whatever, no more lame love stuff, let's talk about something better. I am close to figuring out my semblance. Uncle Crow says a few more training sessions or an extreme situation and I'm good to go. RWBY bragged with a grin on her face. She was so close to learning what her ability was that she could practically taste it. Like the fine dairy product she was eating. The waitress, a young woman almost into her 20s, stopped in front of their table and placed a sundae in front of Naruto. From the girl over there. The waitress stated, and there was a chocolate message on it. There was also a picture inside of a napkin, but Naruto didn't look at the picture just yet. Naruto saw that the name Neapolitan was written in chocolate. Underneath that, there was more chocolate writing. It was a large sundae. I enjoy ice cream, here is a special one for you. Thank you, random girl, Neo. Naruto called out to the girl, who waved at him with a lazy smile on her face. She didn't say a word, she just watched him get ready to eat the sundae. RWBY glared jealously at the extra sundae that Naruto got. She had already paid, with Naruto's money, their own check. While you flirt, I'm going to go outside and wait. You promised me we could go weapon shopping after this. This is supposed to be just you and me, remember? RWBY asked him, and Naruto gestured to the sundae. I know, I'll meet you in a minute. Let me finish this and thank that girl. Naruto told his sister, and RWBY nodded as she stood up. I'm now skipping ahead to the next part, there is nothing between this part and the part I'm skipping that is of importance. If we switch focuses then you will learn what happened in the in-between time, but not now. Roxa said as he pressed the fast forward button. So where to next? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. There were several weapon shops that RWBY would want to go to. RWBY pointed to the north and that was the only indication he needed. He knew which one that she was wanting to go to. Naruto's eyes went hazy for a brief moment and he blinked his vision back to normal. You okay? RWBY asked Naruto, who started to wobble. Naruto groaned, feeling sluggish now, like his head was spinning. What is happening? Naruto asked with a worried tone. He had no clue what was happening to his body right now. RWBY got off of the motorcycle and she moved to catch Naruto when he fell off and onto his side. Naruto lost all sense of balance and slammed into the ground harshly, but the pain didn't seem to come to him. His vision was drifting in and out and he could feel himself growing tired. Naruto? You okay? Naruto. Come on, get back up and tell me what is wrong. RWBY yelled at Naruto, worried for her brother. RWBY felt a hand on her shoulder and she looked to see the person who bought the sundae for Naruto standing behind her. She was holding her scroll out to RWBY and it had words running across the screen. I drugged him, have fun sleeping. Eh? RWBY asked before she felt something hit the back of her skull when Neapolitan slammed her umbrella into her head. RWBY passed out onto the ground at that moment, the surprise hit getting her before she could respond with her aura. RWBY hit the ground and at this point Naruto's eyes were barely open. I have been drugged. I'm getting tired. Naruto thought as sleep started to take him and Neo pulled Naruto's arm over her shoulders as she lifted him up and started to walk with him. She was smiling a dark grin, not caring that she was openly kidnapping somebody for who knows what. Naruto struggled a little, but controlling his body was getting harder and harder. Don't worry, I'll let you go when I've had my fun. Your disguise doesn't fool me, Summer Branwen. Naruto could barely read the message on her scroll, but he was filled with worry over have my fun and her knowing that Summer Branwen was a disguise and that Summer Branwen was him to begin with. Neo had dark plans for Naruto and she was showing him the fact that she seemed pretty damn evil. She visibly enjoyed Naruto's worried face as he fell asleep. RWBY dad Uncle Crowyang help. Naruto thought as sleep fully took him. Neo was long gone when the shop manager came out of the shop to help RWBY wake up. Now the 13th part begins, remember, I'm only playing the beginning portion of it. Roxa said lowly as he hit the play button. Naruto walked through the street slowly, without any real purpose to his steps. Naruto's clothes were ripped, with only his scarf remaining untouched. Naruto had small scratches on his body and red marks stood without pride on his neck. Naruto looked at the ground with slightly dead eyes, wondering aimlessly as he tried not only to find where he was but see if he could find any sort of marks. He had been awake for a while now, but until the last hour his body had been unresponsive to his desires, the drugs had kept him sedated. He wanted to struggle, and he had attempted to, but he couldn't. Whenever the drugs had been about to wear off, she would just force feed him more. Naruto couldn't freely move, and he hated what had been done to him. That girl, Neapolitan, she was evil. She was no sadist, she was truly evil. She enjoyed his despair, and the power she held over him had only excited her more. She had picked as her target for drugging, because he was strong. She wasn't strong enough to beat him in a fair fight, so she took the ability to fight out of him. She had made him stay awake, and she had a mirror on the ceiling so that he was forced to watch what she did to him. She was no normal sadist, she did everything with a cruel smile on her face, and she enjoyed having power over him. She enjoyed stealing something he could never get back and making his first memory of something important horrible. No, please tell me she didn't do that to him. He's too sweet to kind anything but that. Kushina thought almost hysterically, tears beginning to cascade as she reached the one conclusion that no mother wants to know had happened to their child. She had spoken to him, and such a beautiful voice was wasted on such a horrible person. She had stolen his virginity against his will. She had raped him. "Ooh!" Kushina screamed, sobbing uncontrollably into Minato's as he tried to comfort her, with tears of his own falling down his face and into Kushina's hair. Now you know why I couldn't bring myself to say what happened, and none of you would have believed me unless you saw it for yourselves. Roxa said, with all the work he had put into controlling his emotions gone the instant Kushina screamed, tears streaming down his face. How could anyone do such a thing to him? I know he's a dope and all that, but how can anyone do that? And am I going to be able to go there, because I will kill that bitch for what she did. Satsuki said with her fist clenched tightly, blood falling to the floor as she looked at Roxas. I'm not sure, FTDS hasn't shown me anything pertaining to you guys being in that world, but I do know that you and Gaara are in the original one that we are reading of. Roxas replied to Satsuki, unable to stop his tears from falling. Do I kill the bitch, because if I don't I'll Satsuki started unsure of what she would do to FTDS if she learned that she didn't kill Neo. Roxas looked at her with sorrowful eyes, saying, you better get in line then, I almost put myself on the council and forced him to let me kill her. But I swore to myself ages ago that I would only become a member of the council if the person in charge of the world needed a serious boost in confidence, or if the person openly states that he or she needs feedback on who should go with whom. Wait, you're on your own council of reviewers? Hinata questioned, her face stained with tears. No, I'm on a different council. There are multiple councils all with the same name and the same goal, to provide feedback on how a person is doing with their world. Though not all people are nice about it, and these people are called flamers. Now then, most people who manage the worlds are able to ignore flamers, but when they get the manager's confidence down is where I come in and leave a helpful comment. Roxas replied. Now I have a question, what do you mean by pair with? Burrito asked. That I was hoping you would miss. What it means is something called pairings, or who goes with whom in a world. Now then the standard pairing, or what happened in your unedited timeline was Naruhina, Sasusaku, and so on. With outside interference, which creates worlds by the way, the pairings become different with examples being Narusaku, Sasuhina, and even Narusasu for those managers who swing that way. Don't you look disgusted Satsuki, there is something called gender bending where the original gender is switched out. In fact, I'm watching a world where you were born female Satsuki. Roxa said, firing the last comment at Satsuki who looked green with the last pairing. Final question, where do you go to watch a world? Jiraiya asked with a hopeful look on his face. I already know your next two questions so I'll answer the three right now. All the worlds are compiled into a place known to us managers and viewers as fanfiction and are either in a book form or a video form. No, you cannot get into fanfiction from anywhere because the place is restricted by beings above even my comprehension, so that only 3 types of beings can get into there, specifically authors, readers, and reviewers, and lastly yes, there are pure smut worlds there where one person gets laid multiple times. I've even read one in public just to see the reaction I'd get from saying it's pure smut. You have a problem with that? It was kinda funny at first, but got boring because there was no plot in it, so I stopped. Roxas replied with a bored tone of voice, picking at his fingernails. Jiraiya was wrong, I have one question unrelated to all of this. What do you do in your free time? Sakura asked. Fanfiction, listen to music, playing all 3 Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Awakening, Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition and Dark Souls 2. Scholar of the First Sin, Final Fantasy, Hyrule Warriors, or Smash, or reading my brother's stories. If you want to know about him, look up Agent Archangel. Roxas replied with a small facepalm before shouting, now let's get back to the story, I don't want to remember the death of my avatar's own mother. Or anything about Dark Souls. Why nothing about Dark Souls? It can't be that bad. Satsuki remarked with a small smirk before saying, hell, I bet that I could get more accomplished than you have by the time the reading is over. Sakura, continue reading in my place. After finishing she tossed the book at Sakura, who looked confused because she had just walked into the room and was looking around to see the mental state of everyone there. Did something bad happen that I missed? Can someone explain what happened? Sakura asked with a concerned look on her face when she saw the faces of Hinata, Minato and Kushina. I'm not able to explain, so ask Satsuki. You're explaining, Minato and the rest are not able to do anything and make sure you explain it outside. We don't need another mental breakdown here. Roxas said while fiddling around with the TV and a weird black box, not bothering to look back and figure out who spoke. Okay, follow me and don't raise your voice or speak until I'm finished, Satsuki told Sakura as she walked outside the room. So now what? And what are you doing to the television? Minato asked while laying a sleeping Kushina on the couch after getting everyone off it. I'm hooking up this box 360 so that Satsuki can attempt to play Dark Souls while we do the reading. Roxas said before grabbing the remote and pressing a few buttons. That bitch did what? And there's Sakura, where was she? Roxas asked with a confused look on his face. Minato deadpanned saying, you don't remember telling Satsuki to explain things to her? Geez, you have a horrible memory. Oh, so that's who that was, my bad. Roxas replied with a nervous smile as both Satsuki and Sakura walked in, the latter of the two looking ready to brutally murder someone. Hey Satsuki, I set everything up for you already, just press the small green A button to start everything, pay attention to the tutorial, and finally, don't die on the title screen boss. Roxas said while tossing a small handheld device to Satsuki. Let's make a bet. If I die before I beat the tutorial, then I will do everything you want without complaint for 5 chapters. If I don't die before the tutorial is over, then you have to do everything I say for 5 chapters. Satsuki said smugly, thinking that it would be a quick and easy way to regain her true gender. Roxas looked at her like she was making a fool's bet before saying, don't blame me when you lose that bet, and to up the ante, it will be every time you die before beating the tutorial you have to obey me for an extra 5 chapters. So for 1 death it would be 5 chapters, 2 deaths and 10 chapters and so on. Both Roxas and Satsuki shook on this before Roxas turned to Sakura and Satsuki turned to the game. Well, let's continue to the reading Sakura, Satsuki will be serving me a long time. Roxas said with a devilish grin on his face. Oh, and why's that, Sakura asked, not liking the grin on his face for it mirrored Naruto's pranking grin. Simple, I didn't tell her that the version she's playing is the Prepare to Die edition of Dark Souls or the even harder version of the original Dark Souls. Roxas replied with his grin growing wider when he heard Satsuki scream Kami damn it. That was a cheap shot. And that's 5 chapters you have to obey my every word. Roxas said before ducking under a chair that was thrown at him. I'm reading now so shut the hell up. Sakura shouted before opening the book to where everyone left off. In her hands was a scroll colored white with a screen extended to show a play-by-play recording of Naruto and RWBY fighting side by side as well as the recording of them on the rooftop. It was as if by magic that a person walked in through the open door concealed by shadows at the mention of somebody. Cheesy entrance is Chikami damn it again. And that's another 5 chapters she owes me. Roxas started to say before he was interrupted by Satsuki's shout of anger. That person was even taller than even Glinda, who was one of the tallest people Naruto had seen. He wore a darker shade of green suit with a green overcoat, a green scarf with a cross on the front, with fair skin and silvery gray hair, and he wore dark glasses in front of his eyes, but not covering them. In his left hand was a mug filled with something, but in his right one was a plate of chocolate chip cookies. And like that cool entrance is ruined, now only if there was epic music playing, and Satsuki's about to die again. Roxas said before cocking his head to the side. And how can you tell if she's going to die or not? A newly awaked Kushina asked, trying to figure out what she missed. Easy in 7 words. Asylum demon with no shield or sword. Roxas said right before what the honest fuck is that? Was heard. That's the tutorial boss, good luck cause you'll need it, Roxas shouted over at Satsuki, causing her to get hit and die, and started to leave before saying, and I should probably run right now, see you all in a few minutes, and tell me how many times she died while I'm away. And with that he ran like the devil herself was after him. Naruto immediately realized this was Osban, the headmaster of Beacon Academy, thanks to the fact that he and RWBY both planned to go there in 2 years when they finished up with Signal. What's up with the academy names there? First Beacon, now Signal. Are all the academies named after some sort of communication? Minato pondered out loud. Naruto and RWBY rose you have the man started before he leaned over and got closer to them. RWBY seemed more than a little creeped out by the man, while Naruto leaned back. Twin pairs of silver eyes showed the man no fear, though Naruto's did show annoyance, and RWBY was worried, not fearful. Silver eyes. The man finally commented. And not only did he ruin his entrance, but he made himself look like a creep. Roxa said seemingly out of nowhere, causing the entire room to jump in surprise, which caused Satsuki to die again. And now she's in the depression state. Roxa said before anyone could ask why Satsuki didn't shout. Depression state? Kushina asked, completely confused on not only his words, but how he snuck up on everyone for the second time. They're shinobi, damn it, they're supposed to sense the presence of others. Yes, the second half of the first stage of Dark Souls. It goes surprise, depression, anger, bargaining, and finally queen. Roxas replied, somehow pulling out a whiteboard with a diagram on it. Queen? What's queen? Himawari asked. Who, not what. And they're a famous band. The song I'm talking about is We Are the Champions, which is sung every time I beat a Dark Souls boss. For even greater detail, the part sung is the end of the chorus. Roxas stated before grabbing the book and saying, I'm reading now. Thank you, I didn't know I have silver eyes. Naruto commented back at him with a fair amount of snark in his voice. That certainly got a raised eyebrow from Ospen, while RWBY nudged Naruto in the ribs for the comment. Naruto, manners. RWBY quickly whispered. And that girl has her priorities set, now only if she could teach Naruto to hold his tongue. Minato said, not liking the snark even if Ospen deserved it for what he said. What? I know silver is a weird eye color, even gray is more normal than silver. He was stating the obvious. Naruto complained to her. His blood had finally started to cool down, mostly because he had relaxed, though over half the table had been frozen over, thanks to him breathing out ice mist over and over again. Come on, just let me kill you, please, just please quit killing me. And now Satsuki's in the bargaining state while only halfway through the tutorial. Well, how many chapters does she owe me now? 20? Or 25? Roxas questioned, somehow knowing she's only halfway done with the tutorial, but decided not to tell her. She owes 25 now, and how do you know she's only halfway done? Minato asked as he pulled out a piece of paper and looked at it. She still hasn't figured out you're not supposed to fight the boss yet. Roxas replied, getting a chuckle at their shocked faces. Now that is a cruel game, giving you the first boss, and you're not even supposed to fight it. Boruto said, wincing when he looked over at Satsuki. Yep, and whenever I die I tell myself 8 words. Dark Souls, I keep forgetting it's Dark Souls. Roxas stated, laughing when Satsuki died again because she ran into an attack. Well, you could have said it less rudely. RWBY muttered when she realized that he was right. I'm sorry if you get that a lot. I've only met one other person with your eye color before. Though she wasn't a scythe user, where did you get those skills? Ospen asked with a bit of emotion to his tone. The emotion was neither positive nor negative, but it was a strong emotion. Then what emotion was it? There aren't that many neutral emotions. Hinata inquired, before being replied by Roxas saying, most likely curiosity, but you know they say curiosity killed the cat. Our Uncle Crow that is with a Q not a C like you would think. RWBY wanted to learn from him, and I thought the weapon was pretty cool. He works at Signal as a teacher, so we learned this stuff at Signal. Naruto answered quickly as Ospen set the cookies down in front of them. Naruto reached out and grabbed a cookie, while RWBY leaned down and bit the cookie out of his hand. Ah, the classic sibling rivalry, I wonder what Naruto's going to do now. Jiraiya said as he got punched for sneaking up on Kushina, who then wondered why she didn't punch Roxas for the same reason. If you're wondering, it's called author powers. I can control you so that you do what I say. I only use it to avoid getting hit or to shut somebody up. It is how I quieted you during that. Roxas explained before Kushina could even begin to ask. What do you mean by that? Jiraiya asked before he got another punch, this time from Roxas. Shut up, as I told Sakura, we do not need another mental breakdown in here. Roxas said, looking at the silent form of Jiraiya, who was wondering how somebody could hit harder than Tsunade in her prime. Roxas then grabbed the remote and turned the TV back on, before turning to Minato and giving the book and saying, your turn to read now. Minato opened the book and then looked at the screen in confusion, wondering why the book was blank and the screen only showed static. Is the screen supposed to be all gray and weirdy? Himawari asked as she glanced at Roxas. Absolutely not, unless 1 minute, I need to talk to the council about something. Roxas stated as he quickly left the room, making all the inhabitants wonder about what he said. Few minutes later. I'm back with the information I need. Roxas stated again, seemingly materializing out of nowhere, scaring the everlasting shit out of everyone, before getting slugged in the face by Kushina for scaring a 3rd time. This also had an effect of causing Satsuki to pause the game, which caused her to die again. So what happened to the TV and the book? Jiraiya asked when he saw Roxas get up without a single injury. While pulling out a new book and DVD, he replied simple. The council said that they wanted us to go over the remastered version, but this time with the cast of RWBY, and I'll see if I can pull a couple of strings and get Naruto himself to be able to join in. So without further ado, here is Team JNPR and Team CFVY. When Roxas had stated the introductions, 8 people had walked into the room. The first was a blonde-haired male wearing a grey hoodie with black armor over top of it and dark blue jeans. On his hip was a sword and sheath. The second person to enter was a tall woman with brilliant red hair, wearing what appeared to be bronze Greek-style armor, with a red mini-cape attached to her waist and a spear at her hip. The third person to enter could be described as pure energy given human form. She had bright orange hair wearing a white corset with a heart-shaped hole over her cleavage and a grey and black jacket over said corset. She was wearing a pink skirt and was holding what appeared to be a grenade launcher. The fourth person looked like he was about to facepalm at the actions of the hyperactive girl. He had black hair with a portion of it dyed pink and wore what seemed to be a green Chinese shirt with black portions and white pants. The fifth person to enter was another tall girl, but this one was wearing a lot more clothing than the redhead. She had dark brown hair and was wearing a light brown sweater with a black corset over it. She also had a black scarf, multiple black necklaces and bracelets, shades, and a black beanie on. Person number 6 was of darker skin, but he had reddish coppery hair that matched his sleeveless shirt. He bore multiple scars on each arm and possessed wide eyes not unlike the Byakugan. The seventh person to enter was the shortest person yet if you didn't include the light brown rabbit ears that added about 2 feet to her overall height. She wore a skin-tight black suit covered by a red and yellow jacket and pants. Her hair and eyes were a darker shade of brown. The final person to step into the room was, for lack of a better word, a giant of a man. He had short black shaved hair and was wearing light green and brown monk's clothes with light green, 5 layers sewed on his left shoulder and arm. Strapped to his back was a large orange sword that looked like a cleaver. Their names are John Ark, Puranikos, Nora Valkyrie, and Lai Ren on Team JNPR add Coco Adele, Fox Alistair, Velvet Scarlatina, and Yatsuhashi Daichi of Team CFVY. Roxas said as he pointed to each of the newcomers as they came in. Okay, weird dudette person, what is this place and how did you get Osmond to allow you to come with us and who are these people already here and what is this place and what are those things in your hands and where's his Team RWBY and are there any pancakes? The newly introduced Nora asked in rapid-fire style, making everyone wonder what she had said. Their questions in order are, this is the afterlife limbo. I used my perfect persuasion skills to influence Osmond with a simple sentence. These are the people you will be with for the rest of eternity. I already answered this question, so you should have been paying attention. They're called a book and DVD case. Team RWBY is in another sub-realm, and yes there's pancakes and no, they're not ready yet. Roxas listed off as he tried to pry Nora off him when she latched onto him. Wait, you said this was the afterlife, but how could we be here since we're still alive and what was that simple sentence you told the headmaster? Pura asked with widened eyes as her hand moved to the spear on her hip. Simple, my powers allow me to pull beings from their original dimension into a new or pre-existing dimension, and that simple sentence was that Team RWBY was doing the exact same thing, only with her brother being the supervisor over the events happening. Roxas replied, pointing to Izanami when it was necessary. I have a few questions myself. Why are we even here? You said it was a matter of extreme importance, and now we know that what we're experiencing is almost the same thing that Team RWBY is going through, but we don't know what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Lai said as he looked at his team and Roxas. I'll state this once again, only because you don't know yet. You are about to watch what could have happened in your world if these events actually took place. You, along these people already present, will read through this book and watch the respective episode on TV. This is about what would have happened if a hero from their realm was reincarnated into your realm. Oh, and Satsuki, that's another 5 chapters you owe me. Roxas said as he loaded the new DVD into the player. What was that last bit about? A confused John asked as he took a seat next to Minato, trying to find security being next to another blonde. Roxas and that girl, Satsuki, have a bet going on. Every time Satsuki dies in the game, she has to obey Roxas' every command for 5 of these chapters. The name's Minato if you wondering, and my wife Kushina is the redhead talking to the redhead with the bronze armor on. Minato said as placed his hand out for a handshake, which John accepted. Okay, now that everything is up and running, I'll be the one to start treading first, so shut up and don't die on me. Roxas shouted as he turned the TV on and opened the book to the first page. Chapter 1 Twins are born. Are we seriously going to watch the birth of Naruto? I hope it won't end like last time. Jiraiya said with wide eyes and fingers crossed, a position mirrored by all of the shinobi in the room. Oh, and why is that? A curious Velvet asked. Simple, a demon was forced to attack our village after it was extracted from me, killing the majority of the village. Minato and I died after we were forced to seal the demon into our son Naruto, causing him to be ostracized and turned into a scapegoat for the villagers' pain. Kushina replied solemnly as she held her stomach. Alright, shutting up now, was Velvet's only response to the story. Ruby Rose, that is her name, a woman, spoke as she held her firstborn child in one of her arms. The woman was a fully grown, rather short woman with straight black hair. Her hair went to her shoulders and had a red tint to it. She was pale-skinned and her eyes were a bright silver color. So that's where Ruby got her appearance, right down to her height. Nora exclaimed when she saw the new mother on the TV. She was wearing a hospital gown over her body, though she wore a white hooded cloak over that. She refused to part with her cloak. And now we know where Ruby got her love for that red cloak. Jiraiya said as he was subtly checking out the woman on the screen, but wasn't subtle enough since he got slugged by Kushina. How do you all know that Ruby has a red cloak and why was he hit hard enough to be put into a wall? John asked as he pointed at the hole that Jiraiya was put into. He's an irredeemable pervert that goes by the name Jiraiya, and before I brought you guys and gals here, they were watching the original version of this, so they know what Ruby looks like. Roxas replied before he went back to reading, only to get interrupted when Jiraiya claimed he was a super pervert, which got him 2 more punches to the face, one from Kushina and one from Roxas. She was Summer Rose, and she had just gone through the pains of birth. Twice in a single day. I could barely handle one, and she goes through 2. Unbelievable. Kushina said with a slight depression, until Minato comforted her. She didn't have to worry about a bitch trying to escape. He said as he rubbed Kushina's back. In her arms were 2 babies suckling from her breasts. The first one was a moonshade-skinned baby girl with a small batch of black hair, with her own red tint to it. The baby's eyes were open, showing them to be a blue color. Weren't Ruby's eyes a silver color like her mother's? Sakura asked when a close-up of baby Ruby was shown. Actually, all babies are born with blue eyes, but over time they change colors. I'd be worried if they were still blue after a couple of years. Roxas replied while looking at a research paper. She was going to be named Ruby Rose, after her little rosy cheek she had after her birth. Not to mention the name went with her last name and was a color. So that's why she's called Ruby, we have so much dirt on her now. An excited Nora squealed as she thought of the blackmail material she just obtained. That's incorrect, remember this is an alternate realm or something like that. Besides, what's with everything having some sort of color scheme? Hinata told Nora as she looked at everyone's clothing. Good question. We'll tell you when I find out. Roxas said before he went back to reading. The other baby was a little baby boy, unnamed, and he had her lover's blonde hair, but it did have a small red tint to it as well, at the edges. A trait he gained from her, and he already had her face and eyes. Is this baby Naruto? Cause if it is, then he's adorable. Kushina gushed as she stared at the close-up of the second baby. While Ruby had apparently everything, though it was hard to tell, the little boy had mostly her face, eyes, and jawline. He had little blue eyes as well. He had fair skin, a slightly darker color than the pale skin Ruby had. The man was standing next to her, holding a sleeping 2-year-old girl who was wearing a brown tunic over her tiny form, was rocking the child. The child in his arms had wavy blonde hair and she looked nothing like Summer at all, or even the man holding her, other than the colors of her hair. Oh my god. Baby Yang looks and acts nothing like the Yang we know. A surprised John almost screamed. Hey, who's this Yang girl? Boruto asked with a question mark floating over his head. Yang is the sister of Ruby and the final member of Team RWBY. Lai explained. Wait, so that mystery girl we've been wondering about for the past 3 chapters is the grown-up version of her? Sakura shouted in disbelief. Yep, and you wouldn't have learned about that in the original chapter. Instead, it would have taken another chapter to introduce her. Roxa said with a smirk. But you said she would be introduced. Himawari said with wide eyes, not understanding if he had lied or if it worded what he had said in such a way that it led them to believe that Yang would have been introduced in that chapter. Wrong, I said you totally will not get to see her this chapter. What you heard was you totally will get to see her this chapter, one said, not so quietly so that you wouldn't hear it. When you would have turned on me, I could pull up what I had said. Roxas answered with his smirk growing wider at seeing the shinobi's deadpan expressions. I hate you. Satsuki stated after she had died, again. Welcome to the club, you want your free complimentary t-shirt now or later? Roxas asked as he watched Satsuki die again, this time from one of the simple enemies that had gotten behind her. The man was a slightly tall man, not very tall, but good enough. Ah, natural selection. Never survival of the fittest, rather, survival of the fit enough. Roxas said as he glanced at the screen. Survival of the fit enough. What does that mean? Coco asked when she also looked at the screen, trying to find what Roxas found in the man. Exactly what it sounds like. It's the reason why there are blind and disabled people, nature deemed those as fit enough to survive, so they were never changed or killed off, which is why I say survival of the fit enough. Roxas replied as he looked at yet another research paper. He had short blonde hair and tan skin. He was well muscled and wore an orange shirt with a brown vest over it. He had on orange shorts and a shoulder plate on his right shoulder. He had a tattoo on his right arm and he had stubble on his jawline. "Hey Minato, it looks like he could have been your father," Jiraiya said as he looked between Minato and the man on screen. Taeyang and his daughter Yang Xiaolong. "Oh, so that's their father. Yeah, Ruby looks nothing like him," John said as Team CFVY was still trying to find the resemblance in Taeyang and Ruby. "What are you going to name him?" the father of her children asked her, and she thought about it for a moment. "It better not be something colorful." Sakura grumbled as she was trying to figure out how Naruto was going to get his original name. "Something colorful. I think FTTS somehow hates you," Roxas said between laughs, almost earning him a punch to the gut. "What were those citrus media globosa, those little oranges I was always eating while pregnant, what were those called?" Summer asked as she looked towards Taeyang. "What, isn't that the scientific name for Naruto oranges?" Sakura wondered aloud. "Yes, it is. They're naming him after a fruit. Much better than being named after Narutomaki in my eyes though," Roxas said when he heard Sakura's question. "Hey, it was after the name of the main character in Jiraiya's first book, the only non-pervy he published," Kushina shouted, her fist waving comically. "He wrote a book that isn't perverted. What has this realm come to?" Roxas stated as he started to pray. She ate them all the time, but for the life of her, she could not remember the name of those oranges. It was something colorful. It made her think of the color orange. Not again with the orange scheme. He wore that color so much already. Sakura grumbled out, remembering the eyesore Naruto wore when he was 13. "I don't know, after all Minato had a yellow-themed moniker and Kushina had a red-themed moniker, so that would end up as orange-themed kid," Jiraiya said as he mentally placed the three next to each other. What were those monikers?" Velvet asked in a Hinata-style pose. "Simple, Minato was the K plus Roy no Senko, or the Yellow Flash. Kushina was the Akai Chishio no Habanero, the red hot-blooded habanero. Minato got his moniker when he used the Hiraishin, or the Flying Thunder God, in tandem with the Rasengan to obliterate an entire army. The Hiraishin allowed him to bend time and space to teleport to a marker in a yellow flash of light, hence the name K plus Roy Senko. The branch of arts that manipulate the space-time continuum is called Jiken Kuken Ninjutsu, and another example is the Kamui, or the Authority of the Gods, capable of teleporting objects and entities to another dimension. Kushina got her moniker through her red hair and explosive temper, especially when she was called a certain word I dare not say. Roxas explained, getting wide eyes at how much he knew about their nicknames. The boy had a sister who was yellow and another sister who was red, so he needed something that was orange. They were in vacuo, I can't remember either. They were grown on that island surrounded by maelstroms. Taeyang said, having trouble remembering the name of that orange that grew on the whirlpool-surrounded island. "Doesn't Naruto also translate to maelstrom, or is that just me being an idiot again?" Roxas asked truthfully, making everyone wonder about his intellect. "Yes it does, so it's ironic that the name of the whirlpool surrounding the island is the same name as the oranges she ate," Fox said, making everyone look at him and Yatsuhashi, since they had forgotten they were in the room since neither of them had spoken. "Naruto?" Summer spoke up as she remembered the name of the orange. "Naruto?" Taeyang asked with a raised eyebrow. He didn't know what to make of that name, but it did fit in. "Yeah, those are those oranges I liked. Also, doesn't it translate into maelstrom as well? Orange maelstrom ruby rose, a color and a thing. It fits, and I love it. His name is Naruto, and he will be my little orange," Summer said as she looked at her children. Take that. I'm not stupid after all," Roxas shouted as he did a little fist pump in victory. She would love them forever, and they would be her little. "Do oranges come from flowers?" Summer asked Taeyang when she looked at Naruto. Roxas, again, pulled out a research paper from who knows where and answered everyone's question. "Yes, they actually do grow from flowers." Now onto the story. They heard a tiny cough, and the question was forgotten as Summer looked down. "No, not again." Kushina slowly sat down as horror filled her eyes and voice, an action mirrored by Minato, as their minds jumped to conclusions. "Oh no," Taeyang gasped out when he saw a tiny amount of blood on Summer's breast and it was coming out of Naruto's mouth. He coughed out a little more blood and his skin got a little more paler. No matter where it is, Naruto's birth always symbolizes impending disaster. First the Kikbi, now a life-threatening condition. What next? Roxas asked in exasperation, making the Beacon residents wonder what a Kikbi is. For the record, the Kikbi is the nine-tailed fox demo that was extracted from Kushina here. It was forced to attack Konoha, our home village. Jiraiya explained as he gazed at the screen in worry. "Get a doctor." Summer shouted out with wide eyes. She held Naruto a little tighter, not too tight, and she was worried. Taeyang set Yang down in a chair and he rushed out of the room to go and get a doctor. Summer pressed the button S to the bed as many times as possible. She looked at Naruto nervously. The doctor had said that Naruto was perfectly healthy based on what the ultrasounds looked like. The same with RWBY, but RWBY didn't seem to be showing signs of dying. And this is one of the few reasons why I and Naruto hate hospitals. The "oops major mistake was made" or the "oops wrong doctor humor" joke. Roxa said while face palming. Wrong doctor humor? Was the collective thoughts of everybody in the room. I'm sorry ma'am, but we didn't make it in time for the 2 for the price of 1 special deal at your favorite donut place. Roxa said as he somehow gained a doctor's outfit and Velvet was in one of those hospital beds, complete with a heart monitor. I honestly thought you were going to say something a lot more serious than that. Kushina said as everyone got off the floor from the synchronized face vaults they performed. Precisely my point. Roxa said as he went back to his normal attire and the bed disappeared. Taeyang rushed back into the room with his hand physically dragging a doctor behind with him. The doctor was a young woman with black hair, she had chin-length hair, pitch black. Her eyes were golden and she had olive skin. She had a thin body and stood on the tall side for women. Her eyes were more pointed than the rounded eyes that Summer had and she went over to the baby and picked him up. She seems like a person I've seen before and that you've encountered during your fights. Roxas muttered darkly, not liking the appearance of this new woman. Yeah, she looks like that chick who used fire in her attacks. Fox stated, causing all the shinobi to turn and glare at Satsuki. What? I don't have any relatives with golden eyes. The standard black pupil is a dominant trait in Uchiha clan members, so don't glare at me. Satsuki replied when she had saw the glare she was receiving. Don't you have a game you're supposed to be playing right now? Roxas asked as he looked up from the book. Yeah, but I'm taking a break to cool down. My anger was beginning to influence my attacks, causing me to needlessly die, was the reply he had received. So you owe at least 40 chapters of servitude or did you die more than 3 times? I died 5 times, so, as much as it pains me to say this, I owe 50 chapters of servitude. Going back to reading now. Miss Falls, what is wrong with him, please help him. Summer begged as she held RWBY, while Miss Falls just looked at the baby. His aura is huge. His body is struggling to contain his own aura. His aura is almost as large as an adult's, Miss Falls said in surprise as she felt the raw aura inside of this baby. It was as large as an adult male with a larger than average aura. Didn't really expect that problem to rear its ugly head this soon. Roxas stated with mild surprise. What do you mean by this soon? You already expected him to have problems with his aura? Yatsuhashi inquired as he turned towards Roxas. Yes, you see, Naruto had extremely large chakra reserves for his age, even as a child. I knew that would transfer over into abnormally large aura reserves, but I thought that a problem of this severity would have occurred later in Naruto's life. And before you ask, chakra is a more potent version of aura, capable of anything from utilizing elemental attacks without dust, to creating complex illusions that warp the perception of time, to even summoning deities to seal away powerful demons. Roxas explained as he pulled up a chart on chakra, which Sakura recognized as the one she had used to teach Naruto with. It was almost unreal the size this baby's aura had the potential to be the largest aura ever. Miss Fall's aura appeared around her body and she touched Naruto's forehead. His body glowed yellow before it stopped glowing and his body calmed down. What did you do? Taeyang asked as he took Naruto from her and Miss Falls looked annoyed that he took the baby. Yeah, why did Naruto's body glow yellow and not orange? Satsuki questioned as she looked at Roxas for an explanation. Simple, his body glowed yellow because remember his Rikiden Senjutsu state was a yellow flame-like aura covering him. And I'm absolutely positive that we will learn what Miss Falls did to him the next she speaks. Next time ask Izanami, she hasn't said anything in a while and the looks bored just sitting there reading. Roxas replied, getting tired of the fact that he was now the go-to person for explanations. I activated his aura, it relieved some of the stress on his body. You might want to keep a careful eye on him. Miss Falls said and she turned around. Thank you so much Miss Falls. Summer cried as she spoke, her eyes flooding with her tears. She almost lost her son on the day of his birth. She could never forgive herself if he died before experiencing life. She held onto both of her babies and Taeyang hugged her with his own teary eyes. It's a part of a parent's nature to blame themselves when things like this happen. It's one of the reasons why I'll never be a good parent. All I'd ever do is bottle those negative emotions up until I mentally snap. Roxas stated as his own tears started to form. This statement caused many of the occupants in the room to look at him in a new light since they had only seen the playful cheery side of him up until now. I hope that someday you'll eventually find the one person who can get you to open up fully and not keep those emotions suppressed. Everyone deserves to have love in their life. Yatsuhashi said when he looked at Roku's still form. He had almost lost a child as well. Don't thank me, I don't know what would happen if I lost my little Cinder. Of course she doesn't want much to do with me now that she's older. Miss Full said, knowing how she would feel if she almost lost her daughter. Eh? That woman is her mother? They're completely different. John screamed out when he heard that line. Why are you saying that? Does Cinder turn into an evil megalomaniac or something when she grows up? Boruto asked, remembering his father's stories of Madara and Kagaya. Yes, she turns out to be evil. So evil that she unleashes a horde of Grimm in a heavily populated city. Purah replied, remembering the fight as if it were yesterday. What is a Grimm, and why are they so bad? Himawari asked, wondering if they were like the Shirozetsu the allied shinobi force had to fight in the Ryoji Ninkai Taisen. They are soulless beings whose only goal is to cause as much chaos, destruction, and death as possible. Their main color scheme is black fur with red-lined white bone plating and yellow eyes. The older a Grimm becomes, the larger and smarter it gets, to the point of being capable of summoning other Grimm or planning ambushes. It should also note that they dissolve into black smoke when they are killed, causing theories of them being nature's wrath incarnate to be formed, Izanami said as she grabbed the research paper from Roku's to prevent him from complaining further. Oh, that's actually worse than what I thought they'd be. I thought they were like the Shirozetsu, where they only target enemy soldiers, Himawari said in surprise and horror. She walked out of the room and gave the family time to comfort each other. Why Ruby started to cry and Naruto slept on without even being bothered by her crying. Typical Naruto, capable of deep sleep and sleep fighting no matter where or what age. An annoyed Sakura stated. He should at least wake up for his twin. Yang smiled and Yang started to stir. She yawned before she turned on her side and got more comfy in her chair. She flopped out of the chair before she snapped awake and started to rub her eyes. Aw, so cute. Nor and Velvet squealed, causing Roxas to cover his ears. Don't. Ever. Do that next to me again. Roxas growled as he glared at the two, making them see a person in a black cloak with a hood up float behind him with one hand forming an energy spear. Was go on? Yang asked with a childish tone and Taeyang picked her up and moved her so that she could see her new siblings. That one is Ruby and the other one is Naruto. They are your little siblings. It is your job as big sister to take care of them. Think you can do that, Yang? Taeyang asked and Yang nodded her head in a sleepy way. She kind of understood what he was saying, her mommy didn't seem so fat anymore, so she guessed she finally let the babies in her tummy go free. They were done cooking in the mommy oven and were ready to see the world. Or at least that was how Summer explained it. The FT, mothers. Always finding hilarious ways to explain simple things to young children. Roxas laughed, trying to cover it up by placing his hand over his mouth. He has them there, Sakura and Hinata did it to their children, and knowing you Kushina, who would have done it as well. Jiraiya said to placate Kushina's anger, much to Sakura's and Hinata's embarrassment. Now I have 3 beautiful children. It doesn't matter if Yang is Raven's birth daughter. I will be the best mother I can be to all of them. Summer thought as she held her babies and smiled at Yang. So that's who Yang's mother is. She always said that she and Ruby were half-sisters. John said as those from the RWBY verse finally figured out who Yang's mother was. She would be there for them because she knew what it was like to not have parents. If it weren't for the fact that Naruto was just born, I'd say that Summer was Naruto reborn just for her personality. Himawari said as she remembered all the times her father was there for her in Boruto. She would always be there to make cookies for them, dote on them, and show them the love all children deserved. She's the reason why Ruby has a cookie addiction that rivals Nora's addiction to pancakes. Couldn't she have chosen a healthier food? At least pancakes can be made healthy by adding fruits or nuts. Lai asked as he face-palmed. Brother sister Yang said as she reached out for them. She touched Naruto's face and she played with his cheeks. Taeyang moved her back a little bit before he smiled to himself when he noticed Yang pouting at him. Ah, life of a father. Both disastrous and relaxing, it's practically a contradiction. Minato said as he remembered Kushina's pregnancy, making the other question if they want to have kids. That happens to be a reason I don't want to have kids, it'd cut into my valuable sleep time. Roxas stated as he shuddered at the thoughts of him having a kid. She was going to be a good big sister. Yep, these two are now your family. Summer told Yang and she laughed when Yang reached out for her siblings again. Their small family had grown by 2 more. Warning, obligatory time skipping coming. Roxas stated as he held up the book, trying to figure out who to throw it to next. What's a time skip? Purah asked and her response was a book to her face. It's your K to start reading. Roxas said as he saw Satsuki rub her hand in pain, remembering when he threw a book at her. Several years later. So that's a time skip. It's literally a span of time skip due to nothing important happening. Purah stated as she rubbed her head to get rid of the stinging sensation the book left. Yep, and I'm going to get the snacks now. My helper should be done with them now. Don't be surprised if I randomly appear right behind you guys, again. Roxas replied as he left the room, making those on Team JNR and CFVY wonder what he meant by again. He had a habit of randomly disappearing and reappearing behind us, scaring us every single time. Sakura answered the unasked question. Who wants cookies? Summer asked the house in a loud voice as she stepped out of the kitchen. Baby weight was surprisingly easier to lose than regular fat. This statement had both Sakura and Hinata nodding their heads in agreement and caused Coco to sigh in relief. In a couple of months she had lost all of the weight and then in the next year she had regained her fighting shape and put herself back on active duty. Now, by day she would go out and kick major ass and then by evening and night she would be a doting mother. So from what I understand of Summer's new life is that she's living the life Kushina wanted to live, is that right? Minato asked as he looked at Kushina. In a nutshell, and extremely simplified, yes. Was the only reply he got from his wife. The key is. A tiny Ruby screamed as she ran into the living room. She wore a tiny little red hood and she had grown a little over the years. She wasn't big, but she was big enough that she wore more normal clothes. Her blue eyes looked at the plate of cookies with bright eyes. Damn me and my mouth to hell. Roxas stated as he entered the room with a cart of food that was piled high with all sorts of food, including but not limited to sandwiches, ramen, tomatoes, assorted fruits and vegetables, pancakes and syrup, chocolate, candy, and multiple types of bread. Nora and Kushina went straight for the pancakes and ramen respectively, while Roxas picked up a chocolate bar and started munching on it. What do you mean by that? The confused Kushina asked as she happily slurped up the ramen. Simple, remember when I said that all babies are born with blue's eyes and that we should worry if Ruby's eyes stay blue? Well look what happened, FTDS even italicized that fact for us in the book. Roxas said as he grabbed his 20th piece of chocolate. How the hell did you eat all of that chocolate so fast? Satsuki screamed as she grabbed a tomato, earning a glare from Kushina. Skills. Nothing more and nothing less. Now then the drinks should be here at any moment now. Roxas replied as he looked towards the door. A new woman walked into the room, pushing a cart with assorted drinks ranging from water to soda to even alcoholic beverages such as sake, beer, and wine. The woman herself was a blonde-haired woman with short hair put up into a bun and green eyes, with an ahogue in the center of her head. She was of fair skin and looked to be around her late teens, though the elegance in her posture contradicted that. She was wearing an older style of dress, with the main color being blue with a wide underskirt and gold trimmings. She wore white plated armor over top of the dress on the sides of her hips to the sides of her knees and a white breastplate with blue diesel. On her arms were white forearm protectors with gauntlets on each hand. She was wearing wide armored pants and white boots to keep with the white armor theme. Ashkin-sama, I have brought the drinks you have requested. The woman said as she placed the tray of drinks next to the tray of food. Okay, what does Goshkin-sama even mean, is it some sort of respectful title or something? Asked a confused Lai. It's a title of extreme respect, servants and slaves use it to address their masters, since it literally means master. My question is that you have a servant like her. She looks like a noble queen. Minato said in sheer wonder, sensing that the woman had an aura of one who has commanded before. Long story short, something happened forcing us to meet and then something happened that forced us to gain a servant-master relationship. I'd say for you all to look up something but you can't, so that's why it's a long story cut short. Now back to our story. Roxas replied while rubbing his right arm. Yang walked into the room after her, rubbing her eyes and yawning. She had been in the middle of taking a nap. Children, the only time a parent can rest is when all of their children are sleeping. Jiraiya said as Sakura, Satsuki, and Hinata remembered all the times they were woken up in the middle of the night due to their children. Yang wore about the same clothes, only larger to fit her growing body, and she had put her hair up into ponytails. Cookies? Taeyang asked as he popped his head into the room, with Naruto walking in after him with a very hungry look on his face. Everyone in the family loved her cookies and she always made them when she got back home from a mission. No better way to say a mission well done than with freshly cooked food. Oh, Lai. Why don't you cook us pancakes when we finish our next mission? Nora asked in glee as she thought of the delicious pancakes that Lai makes. Because I don't have the necessary supplies to make the batter. Was his reply, causing her to fall into a mini depression. They hadn't even known she had gotten back home yet, so this was a pleasant surprise for all of them. How do you not notice the smell of freshly baked cookies? I mean, wouldn't it be obvious she got home early because of the smell of cookies being made? Coco asked with amazement in her voice. Like seriously, who the hell wouldn't smell the cookies and not notice the person who always makes his home? Cookies? The three children chanted as they stopped in front of Summer, who started to hand them cookies. No tie, these are for the kids, you get a different cookie. Summer told him and his face brightened up. He liked the sound of that, and after a few years of getting none at all, this was a very welcome surprise. Somebody's going to be very happy at night, and it isn't going to be the children. Jiraiya spoke with a perverted leer, earning a punch to the gut from Kushina, Roxas, and Coco at the same time. We don't need to mentally scar the children anymore, Roxas said as he planted his foot onto Jiraiya's chest to ensure he stayed down. The sweetest cookie of all. Taeyang thought with a fist pump of joy. See, he agrees with me, and he's not getting punished. Jiraiya thought with comical tears streaming down his face. How are you doing, Naruto, are you taking your medicine? Summer asked as she bent down to her children's levels. It's most likely to control his aura, since it almost killed him while he was a newborn. Yatsuhashi said with a slight grimace. Yeah, and Tenlin says he won't want to take the medication. Fox said as he and Yatsuhashi shook on the deal. What's a lean? Boruto asked with a rhetorical question mark over his head. It's the common currency of our world, with each lean being a plastic card with a black strip on the back and standard diesel on the front, with each color being worth a different amount. Coco explained. She looked towards Naruto, whose body had yet to adjust to his abnormal levels of aura. It didn't grow at a normal rate, it grew at an unreal rate. It was already 6 times larger than that of herself and Taeyang combined. And his gigantic chakra reserves are turned into even larger aura reserves. Go figures. Satsuki grumbled to herself as she noticed Roxas setting up a weird device. By the way, what are you doing and what is that? She asked, getting silence as she noticed he had the red headphones covering his ears. Everyone crowded around him, the story momentarily forgotten as they watched him press a button on the gray device, and the flipped-up portion light up, showing an impressive-looking picture. Roxas pressed some buttons on the device, and the screen changed to another picture, this one making the onlookers feel a little bit of fear as they looked at it. He's using a laptop still. I thought he'd have a scroll with his abilities. Lai said as he looked at the computer. Yeah, but a scroll doesn't have the ability to download Steam, meaning I can't be able to get Dark Souls 3 on a scroll. Roxas finally replied since he took his headphones off. What were you listening to? It must have been pretty good for you to ignore us. Velvet asked as she wondered if Roxas would be willing to play it for everyone. It's a sad piece called Dragon Song, and it depends. Maybe next chapter I'll play it. Roxas replied as he continued to type into the computer. My question is, they made a series of that impossible game. Satsuki shouted in complete disbelief. Yep, though it has yet to be confirmed, my theory of the Souls timeline is that it started with Demon Souls being the prequel to the Dark Souls trilogy, with it being about a fog covering the land and ending humanity. Then the original Dark Souls with humanity finding the first flame to overcome the fog and the dragons created from the fog and trying to relink the first flame to prevent it from dying out and creating a new era of darkness, with Dark Souls 2 taking place in a different land altogether, and finally ending the Arc Souls trilogy as Dark Souls 3, where the first flame had been artificially preserved too long and the darkness is approaching once again. Long after the events is Bloodborne, where the fire has faded and darkness rules the land once again, but this time humanity has found a way to survive the endless nights. Makes sense now? Roxas explained as he plugged the jack portion of his headphones into the computer and started playing the game. While he does that, let's continue on with the story. Purah said as she started to read again. His aura was extremely dense, and with such a large aura, he had gained greater healing abilities. The greater the aura, the greater the healing factor of it. He gets his healing factor as well, what's next? He has the ability to utilize Cage Bunshin to become the living cheat code again. Sakura shouted in disbelief. What's a Cage Bunshin? Velvet asked in confusion. It's a technique that utilizes chakra to create solid copies of the original, and translated it means shadow clone. It's classified as a B-rank kinjutsu or forbidden technique since it evenly distributes the original's chakra evenly between each clone made, thus making it capable of killing the user. Even then, most adult shinobi can only create up to 10 shadow clones. There is an even bigger variation called Taj Cage Bunshin or mass shadow clone, where instead of a handful of clones are created, a massive amount are created. When Naruto was 13 years old, he used this technique to create 1,000 copies of himself, and that was only with a few hours of training. Jiraiya said as he had finally recovered from being used as a footrest. This left the students of Beacon in a stunned silence, after all, who could say that they knew a technique that could kill an adult and also be able to spam said technique like there's no tomorrow. But back onto Naruto's healing abilities, he is capable of surviving having the Chidori, an A-rank assassination technique that got its name from the fact that it sounded like 1,000 birds chirping, shoved through his chest and almost into his heart. Luckily for him, the Chidori is a lightning-based jutsu that coats the user's hand in lightning, which cauterized the wound. Roxas said. Of course, Naruto needed to take medicine to help his body adjust to having to deal with the stress of having such a large active aura inside of it. Fox held out his hand as Yatsuhashi puts a yellow lean card in his hand. The stress was visible on his body, he had on the skinny side. His body was being forced to compensate for the stress on his body by increasing his metabolism. He ate just fine, but he couldn't eat enough to gain a good amount of weight, so he was a little under the normal weight for his age. So because of his huge aura, Naruto now has an extremely high metabolism. If that was the same with his chakra reserves, then it would be understandable on how he could so much ramen and stay in shape. Sakura commented. Yep, I am making him take it. Yang bragged, since she practically shoved the pill into Naruto at this point. Of course, the dope absolutely hated hospitals in his original life, so it would make sense that he wouldn't want to take his pills, forcing Yang to have to force them down his throat. Satsuki remarked as she remembered the times he escaped from the hospital. He hides it if we don't. Ruby tattled on Naruto, and Summer poked Naruto's nose. She was still smiling at him though. No child liked to take medicine to her knowledge. She wasn't angry at him, but it was important that he took his pills and went to his checkups on a regular basis until his body fully adjusted to having his aura. I don't hide them. Naruto mumbled under his breath and Taeyang nodded his head. If Taeyang is agreeing with Naruto on this, then Naruto must be taking his pills in a way that makes the pills disappear. John said. Naruto didn't hide it, he put it in water and then let it dissolve before he drank it on his own time. Sadly it didn't work as well that way, so they had to make him take it normally again. Somebody pick up the phone cause he just called it. Roxas shouted as he dodged an enemy's attack and killed it. Why? Was Lai's only thought on the pun. Well, tell you what I found this darling little scarf. I got a little neck warmer for you to Yang, and I got these cross pins for your cloak Ruby. Summer said as she showed them 3 items. Naruto had a long crimson red scarf that he was given by Summer. She wrapped it around his neck a few times and it covered the lower half of his face. Naruto touched the scarf and Summer smiled at him. Ah, they all look so cute. Was the collective squeal of all of the females, including Izanami, but they made sure to keep it quiet lest they earn Roxas' ire again. He loved red scarves and she had no clue where his love for them came from, but she finally found one durable enough to last through the years. Of course he likes your hair color in terms of scarf color. Minato pouted, freaking out the members of Team JNPR and Team Coco, since they weren't used to seeing a powerful man pout like a child. Shit. He's turning into Natsu. Everyone make sure Naruto doesn't gain an affinity towards fire, severe motion sickness, and a love to challenge strong opponents. Roxas shouted in a panic when he heard that. Who's Natsu? Kushina asked. He's what's known as a dragon slayer due possessing the fire dragon slayer magic taught to him by his draconic father Igneal. He is a first-generation dragon slayer and the fact that his foster father Igneal was a dragon, most specifically a fire dragon. There are 3 different generations of dragon slayers, the first were taught by the dragons, seconds possess dragon lacrima implanted inside of them to gain pseudo-dragon slayer magic, and third are first-generation slayers who also have a dragon lacrima implanted inside of them. Natsu loved to challenge strong opponents, whether they were allies or enemies, not caring if he lost. In fact, losing made him want to re-challenge the person he lost to. His most defining trait was his scarf given to him by Igneal before Igneal disappeared. Izanami explained while looking at a paper she got from Roxas. Thanks, mommy. Naruto's muffled words came through the scarf. Summer smiled wider at the thanks before she wrapped an orange neck warmer around Yang's neck. It wasn't a real scarf, but it looked like one. Yang touched it and she smiled at how her neck didn't feel cold anymore. Thank you very much. Yang thanked Summer and she nodded at her. You are very welcome, now Ruby, Summer commented as she attached 2 little silver cross to Ruby's cape to hold it on her shirt. The pins were genuine silver and would last through the years as well. If her daughter was like her, she would be wearing a cloak for the rest of her life. I love them. Ruby shouted out and Summer giggled. Yang looked so innocent, it's just so unbelievable. Purah whispered as she watched a heartwarming scene. Why, does she become a massive flirt later on? Boruto asked with honesty. Yes, and let's not forget the horrible puns she makes on a daily basis. John said while Lai groaned at the mention of the puns. Come on guys, she can't be that bad. Velvet said, trying to stick up for Yang. You're right. She's worse. Lai replied. She felt a hand on her shoulder and Taeyang showed her scroll. She looked at it and saw that she had a message. She looked surprised and saw that it was a message from Ozpin. He almost never asked her to personally go on a mission. She grabbed her scroll before she opened up the message and looked at it. It must be extremely important if Ozpin himself is asking for Summer to do this. Yatsuhashi stated. Maybe this is the mission that kills her. Ruby and Yang did say that their mother was killed while out on a mission. John said as he prayed that he was wrong. She paused and read it all the way through. Mommy has to go on a mission really quick, won't take more than a day. I will see you all tomorrow. Sorry Taeyang, your cookie will have to wait. See you kiddos later. Summer said as she kissed Ruby, Yang, and Naruto on the foreheads. She kissed Taeyang on the cheek before she started to walk away. Hawk blocked. Roxas shouted as all the guys winced and felt sorry for Taeyang. Naruto grabbed onto her leg and stopped her from walking. She looked down at him in surprise and he looked up at her. "Don't go," Naruto begged her, and Taeyang grabbed Naruto and lifted him up. "He must know something's going to go wrong, otherwise he wouldn't be acting like that. My guess is he'd usually be happier to know that Summer's going to be a kick-ass mom again," Velvet said as she watched Naruto's reaction closely. Summer smiled at him before she ruffled Naruto's hair. "Don't worry, my little orange, I will be back before you know it. Mommy is really strong." Summer spoke with confidence and Naruto looked at her for a moment and his eyes seemed to look into her very soul. "She will be back soon." Taeyang confirmed for Naruto and he picked up Ruby as well. Yang nodded to him while Naruto continued to frown. He had a bad feeling inside him about this. Chapter end. The evil Cliffinger of Doom is back. Roxas said as he closed the lid and walked back towards the group. "Give up already?" Satsuki asked with a smirk. "Nah, I just beat Idex Gunder, the first boss of the game without getting hit. Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2 has taught me well." Roxas shot back with a smug expression. "So the only way to know what happened to Summer is if we read the next chapter, right?" Hinata asked Roxas. "Yes, and before you say we should go right into the second chapter, let's all talk about this chapter and our opinions of it," Roxas replied. "Ashkin-sama, I'll be taking my leave now. Please take care of yourself." The servant spoke up before leaving, startling everyone but Roxas since all she had done was stand in a corner and watch silently. "Okay, who the hell is she?" Nora asked as she placed a hand over her heart in an attempt to calm her heart down. "She is servant class Aber, a heroic spirit summoned by a relic known as the Holy Grail, for an event known as the Seihai Sensum, or the Holy Grail War. 7 heroic spirits are summoned into 7 different classes. They are Saber, Archer, Assassin, Caster, Lancer, Rider, and Berserker. Each class grants its own unique abilities, such as Berserker's extreme strength, Archer's accuracy in shooting, Saber's unmatched skill with a blade, Rider's ability to use anything as a vehicle, Lancer's unrivaled speed, and Caster's skill in spell casting. The objective is to defeat the other servants and their masters to be able to contact the Seihai, or the Holy Grail, and have your one wish be granted. Saber and I participated in the Go Seihai Sensum, or the 5th Holy Grail War. And yes, heroic spirits are the legendary heroes of old, such as King Iskander, King Arthur, King Gilgamesh, Heracles, and so on." Roxas explained as he gripped his right arm as if remembering an old wound. "So let me guess, you won the war and you asked for this kind of power?" John asked. "No, Saber and I destroyed the Seihai since it became corrupted with Kono Yosubi no Aku, or all the world's evils, and would corrupt or blacken anything that came into contact with it." Roxas explained as the air around his arm wavered for a few seconds, revealing a black shroud. "What was that shroud on your left arm?" Yatsuhashi inquired. "It's an unnamed shroud, but it keeps the corruption of the Seihai contained in that arm. I accidentally came into contact with the Seihai when Saber and I destroyed it," Roxas explained ruefully. "Oh, sorry for bringing up bad memories." Velvet apologized as everyone tried to think of a subject to change to. "Well, I'm off to see if I can go retrieve Naruto and Team RWBY for you guys. If I can, I'll bring them up to speed on everything so that they're not confused," Roxas said as he got up and left. "All in agreement that we just move on to the next chapter after that shitstorm?" Satsuki asked as everyone agreed, grabbing the food and drinks they wanted as they got ready to go over chapter 2. What if Shinobi Alliance read Naruto and RWBY end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.